All right, we're live. This is Monday Night Live with the Powerlifting America podcast crew, and we're talking all things Powerlifting America news, updates, current events, roundtable with Julia Williams, Mike Gold, and special guests. And today we're expecting Robert Keller, we're expecting Ellis McClain, Claire Zai, and then I'm just going to give the link to Heather Connor every single week, and we'll just see if she ever comes through. She didn't reply this time to say if she was actually going to make it or not. But I assume that she might pop through. It'll be a fun little surprise if we get Heather in here. We want to make her like a special guest co-host with us. And so we'll just send a link every time. But anyway, we've got our trusty crew with Mike Gold and Julie Williams. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. Busy week in the powerlifting scene. We got some news this week and stuff to discuss.
Definitely.
For sure. It's been a big week. Okay, so it's Monday, July 31st, 2023. This is Monday Night Live with the Powerlifting America podcast crew. We're talking all things Powerlifting America, all things powerlifting, current events, news, roundtable. Julia Williams, Mike Gold, you know what it is. And if you're here live and you want to make a comment or a suggestion, you can just drop a comment in the chat. Make sure you're following us at Powerlifting_America on Instagram, as always, and you'll know when we're dropping these Monday Night Lives, when we're going to do them live. And with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first things that we've got going on is today we announced the High School Nationals logo contest, and the High School Nationals registration is now live. I already put the link in the bio below so you can see that. It's on April 19th, 2024 in New Orleans. So that's going to be really nice, a great location. Also, Bench Press Nationals is also, the registration for that is also live, and that will be January 27th in Austin, Texas. Same home of Bench Press Worlds, which Powerlifting America is hosting the Bench Press World Championships on May 25th, also in Austin, Texas. And there's going to be some really cool things going on with Bench Press Worlds. There's going to be like a huge like vendor village set up at Aleco. Aleco will be doing their barbecue thing. The actual venue for that is going to be in like a university auditorium, so it's like a really great venue, and there's going to be like awesome like shuttle service that we've set up to go between the hotel, the complex where the competition will happen, and the Aleco vendor village that we're going to have set up, all kinds of cool things, live music and whatnot. But let's keep going into the things we got on tap for today, because we're going to have an action-packed night, because we will have Robert Keller, Ellis McClain, and Claire Zai stopping by. First thing is we're a week out from the North American Powerlifting Championships. That's August. It starts August 8th in the Cayman Islands. Julia will be competing there. We already talked with her about it last week, but this is the biggest North American Championships ever. 286 athletes from 14 countries. We're bringing a huge team. We were corrected. It's not 108. It's 104 Powerlifting America athletes, because some people are doing equipped and classic. And that's across all age divisions, both raw and equipped. We got superstars Ray Williams, Claire Zai, Mike T, Lane Norton, Susie Hartwig, Gary, Steve Mann, Jonathan Garcia. I mean, it's pretty much a stacked team that would do really well at the Open World Championships. Keep a lookout. Amy Hutchinson has done an NAPF preview article for us. Amy has spearheaded it, and Julia and I both worked on it as well. We should be dropping that very soon, like maybe tonight, probably not tonight, but maybe tomorrow, for sure by Wednesday of this week. It goes through everything that you need to know that you're going to for watching the NAPF North American Championships. One thing in there that Amy mentioned that I didn't even know, that we haven't been making a note of, is that there's 17 former world champions on our squad going to the North American Championship. So this is an absolutely stacked team. You're definitely gonna want to watch it. You're definitely gonna want to tune in. Of course, if you're following Powerlifting_America on Instagram, we're going to post the links. We're going to do all of our media day coverage. I'll be there. Julia will be there. Mike Z will be there, and we'll be doing all the like behind the scenes stuff. We will also do a Monday Night Live from the Caymans as well. We'll probably push it back a little bit later in the day, but I looked at the calendar and we should be able to squeeze that in on Monday. But yeah, we'll be doing all of our normal stuff. So along those lines, I wanted to hit a couple of big lifts and give you guys like some updates from one of the athletes have been doing here at the North American Championships. And you too, feel free to chime in on any of this, but we'll have Claire come on in a little bit. She'll talk about what she did this week, which is that she matched her all-time best squat and deadlift in training with more in the tank. But she's also going to need it, because you guys, I did an update. I looked, because we've been looking at the nominations, and we saw Sammy DePass is in her weight class with the 76s, and that she was nominated with like a 507 or something, or 513.
She
did a 532.5 in Malta. And so that means that Claire is going to have her work cut out for her. I believe that's better than Claire's all-time best. So Claire is going to have to put up an all-time best total if Sammy is capable of hitting that 532.5 again. Again, she just did it like a month and a half, whatever it is, month ago. So it might be tough to replicate. But Sammy is the reigning North American champion. And then also moving up to the 76s, we've got Christine Castro from the 69s moving up to 76, also the reigning North American champion going against Claire's Eye. We'll talk about all that later, but just suffice to say, Claire is on track, but she's going to need it. Also this week, we saw Tristan hit a 340. Tristan Azorod, he's the 120 kilo national champ, reigning national champ. He hit a 340 kilo, 750 pound squat that was moving really quick. Like maybe it could be an opener with a taper. It was his second attempt in Austin. His best ever is a 347. So he's right there. I mean, he's making 340 look like an possible opener. So he's on his game. So that's exciting because the 120s are going to be one of the biggest battles. And then Mike T also this week hit a huge deadlift, a 360, 793 pound deadlift. Also looked like it could be like an easy second, possibly an opener. He did 352.5 in Austin for what, his second attempt. And here he's just smoking 360. And then his all-time best is 377.5. So he's also on track. I mean, he also did a really fast bench press this week, a 445 pound, 201 kilo. It was his second attempt from Austin. It looked like an opener, like a last warm up or something. So Mike T is putting kilos on his total. Tristan is also looking like he's putting kilos on his total. I mean, this is shaping up to be one of the most epic 120 kilo battles of all time. What do you guys think?
So yeah, I mean, I love that Tristan's putting up these huge squats. I think he's like one of the more underrated lifters, like in general. Like in terms, I think the 120s kind of get overlooked. I think they have been getting overlooked for basically since Raw became a thing. For like the last like half decade, it was dominated by oh my gosh, what's the name?
Dennis Cornelius?
Yeah, so Dennis dominated for like 6-7 years, and there wasn't really anybody super close. And now that Dennis is gone, the 120s I don't think has like the name power of some of the other weight classes. Like we don't have so many of like the superstars some of the other classes have. So in general, the 120s get a little bit overlooked, and especially Tristan. He's like one of the best lifters. He's closing in on an 800-pound squat, which is absolutely massive. I don't know the record's higher than that. Dennis has something insane, but he's a really good lifter, and I think the NAPFs will like put him a little bit more on a global map, because not only will he probably have a big performance, but he'll be doing it against like competitors that are like pretty close to him. So we'll get to see a big performance along with a battle, which is all you can ask for.
I mean, this was the showcase battle of the Classic Open World National Championships in Austin that we hosted earlier this year. And then now this time, instead of having Enrique Lugo there to be the third person, we got Bryce Krawczyk from Canada. So, I mean, this is a legit three-way battle with all kinds of crazy things, with massive deadlifters, big squatters, big benchers. It's got everything. It's gonna be a fun one for sure. And then I want to keep moving here. Couple masters. Carlos Lewis this week hit an unofficial world record 207.5 kilo squat for an M3 74 kilo. About a week out, he's a multi-time national and world champion. So Carlos, will be looking forward to seeing what he's up to at North American Championships. He's probably going to try and break that world record, it sounds like, on squat. So that's something cool to look for. I just posted Michael Garazzo in the 93 kilo M1s on our Instagram story. He just hit up a big squat, said it moved faster than it did 10 days out from nationals, where he had that epic battle with Lane. So that he's looking like he's on point. And then just an update. Did you guys see the update from Luella Bowden's coach? So remember last week on Monday Night Live, we talked about how she's doing the North American Championships and she's doing the World Championships in Romania. And we just kind of, speculated about what the strategy would be on that. And the post was, Julia was right. That basically they're going to look at it as a tune-up, make sure that they can hit everything to standard, to IPF standard. And they're not going to necessarily push for anything. They're not going to push for any kind of world records or anything like that. What's your guys' take on that?
Well, one thing I took away from that post actually is kind of like I was saying, the only way I would theoretically like go balls to the walls is if she thinks she's at like a place, like an insane training place where she's way ahead of where she was. And if you look at that update, I forgot the exact numbers, but the total that they said they were looking to push was like in the 600s. So she's, I mean, at least the coach thinks that she's like in for a massive PR. So, I mean, that could be exciting either way. So I guess we'll see.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting. Any thoughts on that, Julia? You were right. So I guess Mike and I will eat crow.
Yeah, I mean, we were all kind of speculating all kinds of things. I think that that's a smart play. I definitely, Worlds is going to be the more important meet for her, but this will be a good tune-up. And normally I probably would say, not to do too many meets, but I think for junior lifters who are inexperienced on the IPF level, then this might be a good play. But yeah, have a good meet, go 9 for 9 and save it and do something special in Romania. I think that's a good play.
All right, Julia refusing to brag on herself or dunk on Mike Gold, but it's 1-0 right now if you're keeping track. Julia's kicking Mike's ass. So, all right, let's keep moving. That's a good transition, Luella Bowden. She's the 84 plus sub-junior phenom superstar. I mean, she's putting up numbers that would kill it in the juniors, and can't wait to see when she eventually obviously gets into the open. But let's move into sub-junior.
Just a note on that. Just a note on that. We're talking about numbers that would kill in the juniors. If with the training total that she's discussing, that theoretically she would like to put in Romania, forget about the juniors. That's a thing that like would have podiumed at Open Worlds like 2 years ago. Like
2 years ago.
We've gotten a little like desensitized, especially after like the best 84 plus battle ever this year. But like 600 kilos, like I forget what the exact number is, but if you look back at like 2-3 years ago to Worlds, there were like maybe two, maybe three people in the 600s. Like I think there were years there were only two. Like what did I don't remember what Brittany won with the year that Bonica was out, but like it was like maybe like 6'10" or something.
Yeah, something like that.
We're talking about sub juniors being in that range, which is just absolute insanity.
It is. And speaking of insane sub juniors, we got the sub junior and junior world championships in Romania starts August 24th. Make sure to put that on your calendar. We'll have a loaded team to compete against the world's best. And of course, if you're following Powerlifting_America on Instagram, you'll get all the behind the scenes coverage. We'll post all the links to the live streams each day so you don't miss any of it. Make sure we made a playlist for all things junior and sub junior world championships. It's on our YouTube channel, so you can see all the things we've ever done. I added all those press conferences that we talked about last week during Monday Night Live, so you can see Carolyn Connor after her competition in Scottsdale. You can see Shane Nutt talking about the crazy battle that he had with Peyton Johnson. And speaking of Peyton Johnson, Quad Sauce on Instagram. He finally made an Instagram post, people. He made a post this week. As soon as we get off of this, I will repost it on a Powerlifting America Instagram story. But he put up, Quad Sauce. He put up a saucy 300 kilo set of 5 and looked good. I mean, the dude's jacked. He's getting back on Instagram. So that was a battle that we talked about it at length last week. If you want to know a little bit about the 93 juniors from last week in the battle that happened in Scottsdale and that we'll get to see a repeat of in Romania, go back and listen to that. Also want to mention that we have this week, one of the big things that happened in the junior worlds on the junior worlds team is Joy Reinfleisch hit a massive SBD day. PR deadlift. She finally broke the 400-pound barrier, a weight that has been just very difficult for her to get over. It's been a nemesis for her, and she finally did that. So we're super proud of her on that. She also tied her PR squat 347. She also put up a quick 259 on bench for a whopping 457 kilo total. Just FYI, her best that she did like a month and a half ago in Scottsdale was 433. So what are we talking here? She's already putting like 25 kilos on her total in like a month and a half or something like that. She barely came in second place. I think it came down to the final pulls. There were some weird attempt selection issues and whatnot, but she was very close to winning the national title as she just aged into the juniors. She was on the sub junior worlds team last year, but yeah, she's really on pace to do something special. And she's, of course, her Her coach, Vin Mangione, is the head coach of the Raw team for Sub Junior and Junior Worlds. So she'll be in good hands, and we're looking to see an amazing performance from her out there. Anything you guys want to say about this, about the juniors and sub juniors before we bring Robert into the call here?
I mean, just talking about Joy, like when she burst onto the scene last year, she was like a bencher, and that's what she was known for. But like her deadlift is, I wouldn't say catching up because she's still like an elite bencher, and her deadlift is still not like at the top of the top. But her deadlift into the 400s now, her squat's making some progress. So she's no longer a bencher. She's an all-around lifter. And I don't know the exact nominations this year for that class, but by next year, she'll probably be like a threat to win. So, I mean, the progress she's making, Vin's a great coach. Her bench, which was already insane, is still making a lot of progress. It's getting closer to comp standard, which obviously is important. Like being somebody who's a little bit like just of an influencer, not just a lifter. Obviously, there's a little bit of pressure to like put a big lift, so it's common for somebody to hit something that wouldn't necessarily pass in a meet, but like still gets all the love on social media. But it's no longer like touch and go benches. Like that 259 bench, that was legit. And I don't know what her comp PR on bench is, but it's not that. It's definitely lower than that. So
100%. She's added a lot to her total. She's a major threat in one of the most stacked weight classes. We got two studs in that weight class, and we're talking 63 kilo juniors here. Team USA is going to put up a fight in that weight class. It's a tough weight class though. Julie, anything you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, well, so as a 63 myself, I totaled 455 at nationals in the open in Inzers. So Joy putting up 457.5. That's huge. I mean, that is a huge total for someone her age, and she's barely in the juniors. So, yeah. I mean, this newer generation of lifters we're seeing, you know, they're already hitting open numbers, and they're just gonna, by the time they hit the open age category, they're gonna be putting up things that we can't even predict. We can't even fathom right now. So it's exciting to see.
It's very exciting. We did Julie and I actually did an interview with Joy a couple months back leading into the nationals in Scottsdale. Go back and check that out. It's on that playlist I was talking about along with everything else. Also, just want to mention we finally got that Meg Scanlon podcast up. It's an absolute banger. It's amazing. Meg drops tons of wisdom. She's so inspiring. You have to go listen to it. It's one of the best interviews that I've ever done for sure. Also, we got the Eleni podcast out there, the 57 kilo sub junior superstar that's out totaling the juniors and is going to be one day a threat for the Queen's title that Natalie Richard currently has. And then I will hopefully also be dropping a podcast with Tristan Nazelrod soon as well. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. If you're following us on Instagram, you'll be able to find it all. And then next thing is just if you want to show your love for all these teams, the NAPF team, the junior and sub junior teams headed to the World Championships, show your love by buying a shirt, get a Powerlifting America shirt, go to the store, get a hat, put it on, tune into the live stream and cheer on Team USA and help us sell those shirts and hats out because we're going to drop some really cool new designs. We're going to drop some winter wear stuff as well soon, but we got to get through the rest of that inventory first to make room. And so definitely show your love for the squad. Go down there to the store link below and buy yourself a nice shirt or a nice hat. All right. With that, let's bring in the man himself, Robert Keller. I'm going to admit him into the Zoom call right now. Let's see what Robert Keller is up to. Robert, when you get in here, when you can start hearing my voice, just make sure you turn on your camera, make sure you're looking good, and make sure you got your hair did and everything. And then turn your camera on. We're ready for you. There he is. Oh, he's got the beard. All right. Looking like powerlifting Santa Claus over here, man. It's looking awesome.
How are you, sir? How are you?
Good. We got me and Mike Gold and Julia Williams in here. And we got
Mr. Gold and Mrs. Williams. Miss Williams, excuse me.
Absolutely. And we got Mr. Keller over here. He calls everyone Mr. and Mrs. or Miss. Very fun guy. He always warms my heart whenever I see him, especially when I see him rocking this beard like this. It looks so good. Tell Nori you're keeping it. But is the first thing that we want to talk about just first of all to introduce you. You are the general secretary of the IPF. You are the president of Powerlifting America. And
Yeah.
then I believe you are the championship secretary of the North American Championships. Is that right? Or
That's correct.
of the entire NAPF, right?
Correct.
All right. So we want to keep this brief. We know you're a busy guy. You're like, when do you fly out to the Cayman Islands for the North American Championships?
Friday.
Friday.
This Friday.
All right. All right. So, hey, I'll be there already, by the way. So text me when you land.
Fantastic. Okay.
But so we know you're busy, so we want to keep it brief. But first thing first is just tell us, when did you first get involved in powerlifting? Just so people get a sense of how long you've been in the sport.
Wow. 1974, went to the IPF World Championships out there in York, Pennsylvania.
That is amazing. So look, we're going on damn near 50 years you've been involved in the sport.
Yeah. And I came home and I said, I want to start with, because obviously they have the weightlifting and the powerlifting there and at that location. And I came back and I first started weightlifting, and then I started, then I moved into powerlifting. So yeah, my dad bought me a set of weights, and then I drafted all my friends to come over, and we all started training, and I had a gym in my basement. And about by the time I was 14.
Wow, that's amazing.
With all the kids in the neighborhood.
You were already organizing like a little federation going there when you're 14 years old. Mike, you got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, so you said in 1974. If I remember correctly, that was the year of the legendary Don Rideout performance, where he set the record that lasted for I think it was like 40 years until Ray broke it. So you saw that in person?
Yep, exactly. Wow. Yeah, the other thing too, you brought Don Ryan out. He just passed away about 2 weeks ago. That's a shame. Yeah, he was a great guy. He was really friendly, very humble, gentle giant. He was an ambassador for the sport. We can't say enough things about Don Ronhout, because he was also went into the world's strongest man as well. And, he was a great competitor and people loved him. So we will miss him. Yeah.
Wow, Mike Gold over here showing his knowledge, flexing the history muscles here, man. Wow, we got a good one. I like it. So Robert, tell us a little bit about the North American Championships. Just for a start, how long has it been in existence? How long have you been running the North American Championships?
Well, this is our 20th championship. Obviously we've been in existence for 21 years. We obviously didn't have the one year with COVID. We didn't have a championship. So yeah, we're marking our 21st year. It was an event that we started, Dr. Maley and I, from USA Powerlifting, president of USA Powerlifting. When I was at USA Powerlifting at the time. We started with an event in King of Prussia. The first NAPF event was in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, at the Holiday Inn. It's no longer there, but we invited the Canadians to come down. And the U.S. had 2 teams. The Canadians had 1 team, and we did it by Wilks at the time, Wilks formula. So Wilks scores. So that it was in teams. It was a team championship. So yeah, it was an awesome championship. We repeated it, I believe. And then we moved to, then we had the first championship competition in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah.
Awesome,
in 2004, I think I was. Yeah.
Well, it's cool to just hear the history of it. I mean, this, I think a lot of people, especially, how the sport of powerlifting, it has like a really fast turnover. There's a lot of young people coming into it, so they don't know what the North American Championships are. So why don't you just give us a little brief pitch on the importance of the North American Championships and what it is in the grand scheme of the whole IPF and everything? Yeah.
Well, there are 6, the IPF splits the world up into 6 regions. We have North America, but when we say North America, we also, we oversee Central America and the Caribbean. So that's that's the North American Federation. And then you have South America, which is FESUPO, all of South America. Then you have Europe, which has the largest number of member federations. There's something like 50. And then you have Africa, and then you have Asia, and then you also have Oceania, which is the Pacific Islands down to Australia and New Zealand. So overall, we had over 100 and almost nearly 145, and then I believe we excluded close to 20 at this last last IPF Congress. So we're sitting right now at about 125 to 130 member federations, the largest, in terms of powerlifting federations in the world. So, and then of course, some of these federations that were excluded are going to be making their way back once they pay all their fees and get their houses in order. But overall, we're strong. In terms of the NAPF, we have a very our championships are very high caliber. Gaston Perez, the president of the IPF, was at the championship last year in Panama. So, and that was until this year, that was the largest, but this year will be the largest ever. Currently, we're sitting at like 280 athletes from 14 countries.
That's perfect, man. Thank you for that summary. And just what are you looking forward to the most about this North American Championships in the Cayman Islands?
Man, we have some great athletes coming. Of course, Ray Williams is going to be there, and host of Mike Tushier. Just fantastic athletes. Many, we're going to see quite a few world records. Susie Hartwig, Gary will be there. We're looking forward to having those folks there, and along with everyone else from the region. We're going to welcome back Trinidad and Tobago. They have a lot of great athletes, and so it's one of the things when we first set up the region, it's really a friendship cup. We look, it's kind of a community of friends that we meet once a year. It's great to see everyone, and we're looking forward to it, especially in the Cayman Islands. Tony McInerney, and I've been friends for close to 16, 17 years. And yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay. Mike and Julia, you guys have any more questions about the North American Championships? Where's it actually located? In the Cayman Islands?
Oh, it's going to be at in Georgetown at the Marriott, Grand Cayman. So right on was it 7 Mile Beach?
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And, it's going to be an excellent, this is like our fourth international championship there. We've held our last regional championship was there in 2012. That was the World Games qualifier. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Mike or Julia, if you guys have any questions, otherwise I got some more stuff I want to ask Robert about.
Yeah, just one question in terms of not the NAPFs themselves, but in terms of where the IPF World Championships are located, how does it work in terms of getting it in the North American region, like in any of the countries that are part of the NAPF?
Yeah, it's fairly simple, straightforward. The member federations have to bid on those championships. Of course, Powerlifting America was awarded. We bid on recently the World Bench Press Championships for Austin. We were granted that bid this year in Malta, but I know that the World Juniors are going to be held in. I think it's in the next year or two in the Costa Rica. So yeah, quite a few, and then Mexico is also bidding on the World Masters Championships. So our region is active. Of course, Canada's held multiple world championships along with the USA in the past. So, yeah, we're quite active in terms of having world championships in our region.
All right, Mike, anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Another thing, Robert, I just wanted to have you explain to us, because it's very confusing, is what's going on with the University World Cup, and give us a sense of like, what is the University World Cup? And like, I know there's some kind of 2-year rotation that's taking place.
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain that for us, will you?
Yeah. The IPF holds the World University Cup every year, except for when FISU, which is the International University Sport Federation, holds the World powerlifting, FISU World Powerlifting Championships, and that will be held next year. So, and it's the difference is the cup. The IPF member federations nominate the athletes to that specific championships, but with the FISU World University Championships, the universities nominate the athletes directly to FISU. That's the difference. And that is remarkable because the university, if they're nominating the athletes, normally will pay for the athletes to go there if they're nominating them. So they're representing their specific university at the FISU World University Championships. And in the future, there's also a World Games for university students. And right now we're at the tier 2 level in terms of FISU. So we're going to move in, we're slowly moving into that tier 1 level. And once you enter that tier 1 level, you can be considered for the FISU World University Games. Yeah.
Wow,
so,
that's amazing. So, I mean, it's
and
almost...
one of the I'm sorry, Paul. One of the other positive things about FISU is, of course, they have the IOC recognition. You know, they are recognized by the International Olympic Committee, and one of the positive things is we have there the IOC the FISU recognition of the IPF. So that was a big step forward for us as we embark on this journey toward IOC recognition when we do finally get it. So that was one of the steps that we needed to take is have that recognition. So
wow. That's really cool. I mean, one of the themes of this episode, as we get into it a little bit later, is just going to be about like thinking really big in the sport. And I think when you start talking FISU and you start talking universities nominating the teams, I mean, you start to be on that same level, the athletes, you start to get to be where you start thinking like NCAA, you start thinking about football and basketball and some of these other sports that universities are heavily involved and known for. And so it's really cool to think that powerlifting is now going to be on the radar of all these different universities around the country, when in the past it might have just been thought of as a club or something like this, and it wasn't really as mainstream of a sport. So that's really cool that FISU is doing that, and the IPF has negotiated and worked their way into this relationship. And then, of course, having those FISU World Games for university level athletes, almost an Olympic level, they're recognized by the International Olympic Committee. That just shows like how bright the future is for the sport of powerlifting.
Yeah. Correct. And then, of course, all the athletes that are nominated from the USA have to be members of Powerlifting America. So that's going to be one of the stipulations about that. So if you're out there and you're interested in the Powerlifting America is going to hold our second university championships this year. We haven't disclosed the location yet, but we're very close. But we look forward to having you join us there. So you have then you would have an opportunity to travel to the FISU World University Championships next year.
Yeah, and we'll be announcing when that university national championships will be coming up here pretty soon. That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. Miriam Elm, our Secretary General of Powerlifting America, General Secretary. I don't know what the right term is. She's a do everything. Secretary General. She's a do everything person.
And by the way, Miriam does an outstanding job keeping our house in order, very detailed, and works extremely hard. It's a very, very, I do it for the IPF, but I understand how hard the job is because she does wonderful work for us. So we're blessed to have her.
Yes. And she's just making a comment here in the chat that NAPF next year, she's going to be hosting it in Scottsdale. Yeah. She's one of the people that'll be actually running the competition as one of the meet directors. Yeah. And it'll be in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2024. So for all the people listening, especially the people listening overseas and the other North American region want to come to US, which is a big draw for everyone, we will be hosting another international competition next year. Besides Bench Press World Championships, we'll also be hosting the North American Powerlifting Championships as well. Good catch and good call on that, Miriam. We love you. Okay, fun time story with Santa Claus over here. Feel like I'm gonna sit on your lap and tell us a story. Anything else you wanted to add there, Robert? You were going to say something.
No, the Elms, our good friend, the Elms, we're going to do a great job next year. Obviously, next year's NAPF championships there in Arizona are going to be fantastic. That'll most likely, probably be the largest NAPF championship ever. We'll probably exceed easily 300 athletes. I think we're sitting at 280 right now. So we'll exceed 300 athletes next year and probably have all of the member federations from the region attend. And then, of course, the following year in 2025, we go to Jamaica, Kingston.
Awesome.
So that's going to be awesome too. My good friend, Mr. Michael Blair, he has the full support of the ministry down there. So we're going to have a great championship. So
that's cool. I'm happy for Jamaica. They're, friends of ours. So it's been cool to see their federation grow and come up as well. That's one of the really cool things. What did you say earlier? You called it like a friendship match or something?
Friendship cup.
Friendship Cup. I mean, that's really what it feels like at the North American Championships. It's competitive, but everyone is, there's great camaraderie amongst the nations there as well. But it's getting more and more competitive. And our team next year will be even more stacked than it is this year because of the competition that we have coming over and with everything happening with the Powerlifting America Classic Nationals and, who goes to Worlds and who's going to go to North American Championships. So, but I want to get a quick, go ahead.
Yeah. The other night you made a very key point about folks having opportunities to attend different championships. You want to discuss that? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned it last week. But just, when it comes to the international opportunities for athletes, we mentioned, there's 6 world championships with Open, Classic, Equip, Junior, Sub Junior, Master, University Cup, Bench Worlds. We got the North Americans, we got the Arnold UK, Silent Worker, Girl Power, and we have other invitational meets that are out there and that are going to come up. Emmanuel Schreiber just kind of confidentially said there's one in the works that he told me about that's going to be a big deal. And then any other country's national championships, you can also compete in as a guest lifter. And if you want to do any of those, besides the world championships where you have to qualify by coming to nationals, besides those, if you want to do any of those other international meets, all you got to do is email the president, Robert Keller, or email Miriam Elm, the general secretary, and they will facilitate you going to those competitions.
Yeah, there are many, many opportunities out there for athletes if they're interested in traveling abroad. They don't want to go to an international regional championship. We also have an international bench press championships that we're going to have this year in Mexico City. My good friend Gabriel Garcia Corona is going to direct another great championship, likely about over 200 athletes from about 10 countries down there. So yeah, we're going to have a great time. So
that's the North American Bench Press Championships. And that Gabriel Garcia that you mentioned is one of these former world champions that went toe-to-toe with Lane Norton in Canada in the M1s in the 93s and will be at this North American Championships running it back again. But also, by the way, throw in Michael Garazzo, who Lane just battled with in Scottsdale, the meet that Miriam and Rodney hosted for us. And man, we got a 3-way battle there in the 93s that we're really looking forward to. Okay, Robert, I don't want to keep you too long, and we will have LS McClain coming in here before too long. So I want to get to a fun story from you that is something that's near and dear to Mike Gold's heart. And that's the story of how you first met John Gruden and he got him into powerlifting.
Okay, yeah. So at the time, I was living down in Davie, Florida, and where I was going to school, and I get a call on the phone, and the gentleman on the phone said, "Hey, I want to get my son into your meet, but I know we passed the deadline." And I said, "Yeah, it's no problem. We have room, and we don't have any problem with that." And I go, "Okay, what's the name of your son?" He goes, "John." I go, "Okay, John, what's his last name?" "Gruden." And I go, "John Gruden." I go, and he goes, "Oh." I go, "Okay." I said, "The John Gruden?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm his father, John Gruden as well, because it was John Gruden Jr. And they call him Deuce." And I said, "Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Gruden." I said, "By the way, you're my favorite football coach." I said, I followed you for a long time. You're a great coach. And thank you for bringing your son to the competition. And then, of course, I had an opportunity to meet Coach Gruden in Orlando, where we had the event. It was an honor to meet him. He's a good man. He is a good man.
Well, it's a good thing you answered that phone call, because who knows what would have happened. History might have been different as far as powerlifting is concerned if you didn't.
Yeah. And John, he's still working with the Raiders, and he's a great competitor. He's a great strength coach. He's done a marvelous job out there with the Raiders. So,
talking Deuce, that is, yeah,
Deuce Gruden,
yeah, and he's the national champion, reigning 83 kilo Open national champion here in the U.S. And I know Mike has got a burning follow-up question, so go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was just wondering if somehow we can speak to Deuce, somehow make a connection. And I think the coolest meet we could do is have a meet where we have like our biggest superstars like Jesus, Taylor, or whatever, and then get a bunch of Raiders players or NFL players that are like the ones that are into like the big list. There are a bunch of them that are like really strong and are really into it. So if we could have something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It would be, I would like to see some type of charity event where, we raise money, some money from that, and they demonstrate test the strength of the football players against the power lifters. And, we find a charity where we raise money for a great cause. I think it's a great idea. I can talk to him about it.
Yeah.
That'd be
you got
awesome.
his number, right? That's the whole point. You got his number.
Yeah. So,
all right, cool.
And his father, he runs an organization there in Tampa where, he provides equipment to underprivileged football programs, schools, youth programs that can't, like I said, they can't afford the equipment. Coach Gruden does a great job in the community to help develop athletes. Yeah, does a great job.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Robert. I'm looking forward to seeing you and Nora down there in the Cayman Islands here just in about a week. I'm actually flying out Thursday. You fly out Friday. So I can't wait to see you. It's going to be a fun time. I know you're going to be working your ass off, but hopefully we can enjoy a few moments on the beach as well.
Well, yeah, I just want to take an opportunity to say thank you to you and to your team. They've done a great job in promoting our athletes, and I know you take a lot of time to travel to a lot of championships to promote our sport and our athletes and our organization. I just want to there's a lot of long hours, and I really appreciate that. The athletes appreciate it. So my congratulations, and keep up the great work. And we want to, on behalf of the PA executive, thank you very much for what you do for us.
Awesome, man. Thank you. It's my honor, and it's so much fun just being on the team with you and everyone on the EC and everything, and everyone who's out there that's working to make powerlifting bigger than what it is today. And it's honor to, like I said, to share a stage with you. Like you mentioned, you're going on 50 years in the sport. So, I mean, man, no one can hold a candle to most of the people that will be listening to this haven't even been around powerlifting, a fraction of that amount of time. So hats off to you for keeping on doing it. You really are one of the ones that does the most working with the IPF, the NAPF, PA. So just thank you. And thank you, of course, for creating Powerlifting America as well. So we owe it all to you.
Yeah. Of course, Mike Zawolinsky and I, we formed the organization together, of course, it was an unfortunate situation with the previous national federation, but we of course made the right decision to move in this direction, and it's been fantastic thus far. We still have friends over at our former national federation. We miss them. There's a lot of very, very good people over there. We just decided to do it differently, and we followed the IPF rules. Of course, one of the big things that we did that differentiates us between the former national federation is we have an agreement with the national anti-doping agency, the USADA, which is really key and important for us to move forward to get the USOC recognition. We're here for our athletes, and of course, the testing is different, but it's there and it's effective. So.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's those things like USADA, they're in all the major sports. And so it's just another one of those boxes to check that if we're thinking big about the sport and trying to move it forward, it's one of those boxes you got to check. So, yeah. So appreciate you, Robert. And I'll catch up with you soon. I'll see you soon, man. I'm looking forward to it.
And again, thank you. It's a pleasure to join you tonight. And I wish you a nice evening. And I'd like to say thank you to all of our members out there that are watching, and it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep. All right, man. We'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. So that was Robert Keller. And so Mike Gold, Julia Williams, you guys have anything you want to recap about what Robert was saying there? Any takeaways?
I asked the question I wanted, and if that can happen, if we can get some sort of charity competition together, I think that would be insane. It would be fun for everybody to watch, and I think like our lifters, like whichever ones got chosen to do it, however it was proposed, would enjoy the hell out of that. I mean, just think about the lifters. Like almost all of them, like are big football people. If we could put that together, I think that would be a really cool stage.
It will be huge for us, for the sport, for sure. Julia, any thoughts, any takeaways there from our little talk with Robert?
No, well, it sounds to me like, maybe in past years when the federations were different, there was less of a focus on NAPF, and it really sounds like, this is going to turn into something like Euros where people are going to be tuning in to watch. And when that kind of thing happens, it's yet another opportunity for athletes to be made visible. So, just because you might not qualify for open worlds doesn't mean that you don't have an opportunity to be seen here on a very high level and participate in a very high level in international competition. So I'm really excited for everything that he's trying to do. And I think we're on a really good path here. And yeah, I mean, the Deuce Gruden Invitational, or whatever it's going to be called. That'll be groundbreaking, connecting us to other sports, and, connecting us to athletes from other sports that, professional sports will go a long way towards making powerlifting itself a professional sport one day.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into that a lot more on this episode whenever we talk about the Taylor Atwood on the King of the Lifts podcast that dropped this weekend. And we're going to get into breaking news, current events, whatever you want to call it here. But definitely it seems like Robert Keller, has that bigger vision of like wanting to grow the sport. And I love that you just said you just spoke about the John Gruden Invitational as if it's already happening. And that's exactly, we went from, it was just an idea in Mike Gold's head. He told it to me like privately, and we brought it up on here. And now it's like, when it happens, it's going to be a very big deal for our athletes for sure. So, I love that. That's what we have to do. We have to think big, and we have to put it out there into the universe. So Mike, any final thoughts there? You're going to say something? All right, let's move into current events, breaking news. We got a lot of stuff here. Also, we're expecting Ellis McClain to be here in about 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll try to find a nice spot to bring him in. But first thing, can you guys see here on our doc, we got a couple of announcements about Sheffield. Just came through yesterday, and it's something that we talked about I believe we talked about it on the infamous, notorious, super famous, mythical band episode of Monday Night Live, the original OG episode 1. This is going to always go down as episode 2, even though it's really episode 3. But go ahead and break that news for us. Mike, you want to break that? Or Julia, this was your topic. Go ahead, Julia, you break it.
So Russ has resigned.
No, that's not it. I'm sorry.
Long topic.
We're talking Sheffield. Go ahead, Mike Gold.
This is okay.
Go.
Well, okay. So Callie and Tony have been invited, and that was, there was a lot of speculation around that. They thought maybe the knee sleeves, maybe whatever they were wearing was the cause of this, but it seems to have been settled, and everything is moving forward, which, is good because we don't want people thinking, Sheffield is going to be partial or anything to certain lifters. So really good to see that they're invited. Callie's a really exciting lifter. I think this is going to bring a lot of hype to the Sheffield that, there's already a lot of hype around it. So just very good to see.
Absolutely.
Anything?
And Mike, you got any inside information or anything there?
No, that's basically what I was going to say. But it is a good point that on our banned episode, we have multiple things that happen to both be breaking news this week.
Yeah, absolutely. The band episode was money, baby. But yeah, all right. So it's good to see that we saw that Callie, Callie and Tony Cliff, they hit the requirements necessary at the World Championships. They won their weight class. They put up, within 95% of the qualifying of the world record. So they should be on their way to Sheffield. And I'm just glad that was something that was like totally cleared up. And it's good to see, especially, I mean, Tony, they're both inspirational in different ways. Tony as one of the older open lifters, and then Callie as one of the younger open lifters. It's also something interesting to think about because if they invited Callie, he's a 74. Are there any other 74s going, Mike?
I believe Tim is going. It's not official yet, but I was in the back room when he was unofficially offered an invitation. So expect him to be there.
And that's because of he's coming from the region.
The regional wild card.
The Oceania region or something, because he's from New Zealand. And then again, I think it could bode well for our guy Taylor Atwood to possibly get, because I mean, obviously he finished half a kilo less. Everyone knows his resume. He's been a loyal SBD athlete for so long. He was invited to the original Sheffield, didn't get to put up the performance that he wanted at the last one. So, I mean, let's just put it out there. Hopefully that this is good news that they want to see possibly. How are you going to have Tim and Callie, going up against Taylor's records and not have Taylor there, right? So let's see if we can't get Taylor Atwood invited. What do you think?
The one thing I was going to say, which actually can lead to potentially what we discuss next, is obviously it would be fun. It would be amazing for them to have a three-way battle again at Sheffield. And I think it's also one of the obvious potential wildcard choices. But if you listen to the Taylor Atwood King of the Lifts podcast, he made it like decently clear that, well, at the moment, his next meet is Powerlifting America Nationals, and that he would like to get like a nice amount of solid just time to just train and get healthy and get stronger. So and also another thing you mentioned is that while Sheffield is cool and like he was like upset about his Sheffield performance, to him and I think to a lot of us, the most important thing is Worlds. So I think I assume that if given the invitation, he would accept. I can't speak for him, obviously, but I think either way, like his goal is to come back to Worlds next year and make it where he's undeniable. And if anybody wants to stop him, they're going to have to do something crazy. That's his like number one goal. So I don't think he's like necessarily as intent on trying to get the Sheffield invite as some of the other lifters are. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if it's true, but just based off things he said in the interview, that's like kind of the vibe I got.
Definitely. He said if he has to take off more time, if he has to take off 2 years, he will. But no matter what, he'll always show up to Powerlifting American Nationals and do his thing. But okay, so we also got some more breaking news from Russ. Mr. Get Us Banned. But let's go ahead and play this. Let's go ahead and play this clip from Russ real quick. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Stuff like Powerlifting America just like does like little things that kind of add to what it means to be a powerlifter, and it makes it feel as though you're watching like something of like the NFL or like the NBA, doing post meet interviews, hyping up different matches. They don't have like a big user base or a big lifter base, but you can tell that they're going on the right directions. They listen to people that are in position, and they want to work with people that are in position to help expand the sport and grow the sport. And I just kind of like what they have going on. I like what they have going on over there. And I've watched now 2 Worlds competitions without me being there, and I get a lot of FOMO. I miss being able to call myself a world champion. I've been able to do that since 2021, I believe. So it just feels like there's like this big gap missing. After I finished up nationals, there's kind of like nothing else for me to do. Like I don't want to do like the Carolina Pro or the Virginia Pro or meets like that because I've been to the IPF stage, I've been to the world stage. I know what it feels like to be a world champion, and those meets matter. Whereas I'm just doing a meet for like fucking dogs, which, like to me, that doesn't motivate me. That doesn't get me into the mood of like competing. Like, there's things out of my control when it comes to that, and I just don't really compete for those type of reasons.
All right, so there you have it. He kind of explains a little bit there about he was really feeling like he was missing out on the world championships. Some of the things that we're doing with our media really caught his attention. And so just sort of like the headline, we'll just cover this briefly and then we'll move on into the other breaking news, which is the Taylor Atwood King of the Lifts episode. But basically, he mentioned in that YouTube video that he has resigned from his federation. So that means we're taking that to mean that he's unretired from USVI, and then we'll see what happens from there. But he did, as you saw there, mention Powerlifting America, and he mentions Powerlifting America Nationals in that video. So he'll have to follow an IPF process. He'll have to enter into the transfer portal. And at some point, we'll see how all that shakes out. He'll hopefully at one point, like he said in the video, be competing at Powerlifting America Nationals. And the other breaking news that he mentions in this video, because there's a lot of speculation around this, is that he's staying 83 kilos. And he was very adamant about this. And I got to give a tip of the hat to Mike Gold, because I believe we talked about this on one of the episodes. It might have been the band episode. I'm not sure. The mythical, the legendary. The mythical, the legendary, but you mentioned specifically that you didn't think he was going to go 93, even though a lot of people were speculating about it.
I said there's no chance that Russ is going to go switch into weight class to battle Keiko. It's not gonna. I don't mean that it won't happen. That it wouldn't happen maybe 5 years from now when they're both like 6-time world champions or whatever. But I thought in this current state, he's not doing that. It's not happening. And yeah, but that was on the band episode. That who knows? Maybe we'll release it in like 6 months when it somehow becomes one band. By the way, speaking of two things, one we mentioned earlier, and then obviously the Russ video. So obviously when John Gruden Invitational happens, so definitely one of the pairings that we all want, because it talked about like on so many powerlifting threads and everything, is get a nice quad off and squat off from Russ and Saquon Barkley. How could we? That is what everyone wants to see.
Yeah. 100%. Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, so I remember, I think it was like a few years ago, it had to be maybe like 3 years ago now. He actually, I think Russ posted a video where he I successfully beat Saquon's numbers for bench for the combine or something. He was like, I got to get 29 or 225 or something. I remember that video. That was one of his more watched videos. I think, so maybe a rematch, but this time with, max weights instead of 225.
Absolutely.
Would be good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Saquon's probably decently close on squat and bench. Deadlift, no, but like Saquon is like he's known as one of the best squatters like in the NFL. I mean, he also has probably 30, 35 pounds on Russ. I don't know exactly how much Saquon weighs, but
yeah, he's like 230, I think.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah, so
right.
he's pretty big.
He's probably like 7 inches taller.
So even though Russ said he's not into dots, I mean, maybe if it's him against Saquon, he'll be into dots.
No. We'll have the running back like battle. No dots. There's no dots in the jungle.
Yeah. Should get a couple running backs. Taylor Atwood is a running back as well, so we can get someone else in there as well. Who else are the athletes that you're thinking of for this squat for this like John Gruden Invitational, Mike? Who are the other football guys that are into powerlifting?
Ross, Jesus, Taylor, I know they all.
No, I mean, I'm saying on the NFL side.
Oh, so obviously Nick Chubb, right?
Yeah.
We're discussing him. I have to think. I know there's something, for example, Andrew Billings, the offensive lineman. I know he competed in high school and totaled like equipped for like 2,300 or something. So I know he not only has the background, but he's actually competed and he actually is ridiculously strong. So he could be like a good pairing against one of our big boys. Against one of our smaller lifters, Jalen Hurts, obviously he's competed like 15 times. I would have to go through it. Like I know there's probably like a decent like 20, maybe more nowadays, players in the NFL who have already competed in powerlifting meets. If we're including ones who are not currently active, one of the best athletes, in my opinion, of all time in terms of just like freakness, Vernon Davis, like he was like benching 500, deadlifting like 800, and while also running like a 4.440 and a 40-inch vertical. He's like an absolute freak. Like he would be great. And like, I mean, he's not old. Like he's like a little bit old for football things, but he's still in his 30s. Like he would be obviously cool. There are a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. We need to do our research.
Like everyone would want to see like Aaron Donald because he's put up like decent numbers in the gym. But the bottom line is, the other people that we mentioned are people who've actually put up numbers that, while they wouldn't beat like our world champions, like are more competitive to it. Like Aaron Donald is really strong, and he's, in my opinion, probably the second best defensive player of all time. But his numbers don't really like come up to par with anybody who would battle him in like a similar weight category. So,
who's the best defensive player of all time?
Lawrence Taylor. Come on.
Lawrence Taylor. Right. All right.
I'm
glad we agree on that. I'm glad we agree on that.
It's pretty much widely agreed.
Yeah, I think it is pretty widely agreed. But wouldn't it be sick to see Aaron Donald and Jesus like doing like a squat off, like, and having Jesus just like bury him? Like everyone is showing up for Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald gets out totaled by like 400 kilos.
So that's why it's a bad thing, because like he probably squats like in the 600s, but there are actual linemen in the NFL who are squatting in the 800s. Like there's nobody squatting what Jesus is, but there are ones who are actually like decently, like, who are putting up massive numbers. So I'd rather be one. Also, to be honest, like, unless we have a specific connection to them, it'll definitely be easier to get some like backup who's like really strong than to get, like, we're not getting Aaron Donald. Like that one's not happening. But
you don't think John Gruden, the inaugural John Gruden Invitational, we won't have Aaron Donald? Oh, damn. You're right. I mean, you're right.
Neither John Gruden have like a direct connection. Oh, so like, for example, Khalil Mack, right? He's a freak and been on the Raiders for multiple years. Like, that's somebody who obviously we have more of a direct connection to. Maybe like Chase Young, the Redskins, we got Jay Gruden, we got a connection there. Like, we got to figure out where our connections are.
I have a guy that contacted me that said that he trains at the gym that the Eagles kicker, one of their kicker, the long snapper, trains at, and he's trying to get Jalen Hurts to do like something with us.
Okay.
But we'll see.
With the kicker, I'm like, I don't care about the kicker. Like the only kicker punters who are like known for that is Steve Weatherford was actually he was like like the Giants, like everyone on the Giants used to say he was like the most jacked dude on the team. But like in general, the kickers, punters aren't really the ones who we want to see this.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. We want to see, but hey, I mean, we'll take any NFL. Like, if you're in the league and you want to come and compete, and especially get your ass kicked by Jesus, then like we were all for it. It's for charity.
If we get Jalen Hurts, Saquon, and Nick Chubb, anybody else a bonus. We start with that. I'll take it.
For sure. So, all right. I want to mention Stephen Crane in here. He's in the chat. He's making some comments. So for people who don't know, you're about to know who Stephen Crane is this year, because if you tune into the North American Powerlifting Championships, the live stream, you're going to hear his voice. He's going to be one of the commentators that's down there that's commentating on the North American Championships. And he just mentioned that when talking about Russ, that I bet he wants to lift in the World Games for sure. That's definite. That kind of goes without saying. We spoke to a lot of athletes after Malta, and when it was announced there in Malta, and everyone was buzzing about it, and everyone was pretty much unanimous that classic lifting, classic powerlifting going into the World Games is an absolute game changer. It's going to help to bring more eyeballs to the World Games, and that basically everyone in classic powerlifting is going to consider that to be the highest possible level of powerlifting. But in that video, he did also, like, not long after that clip was over, when he started talking about dots and stuff, he also mentioned Sheffield. The production value at Sheffield is just like a stage that he wants to be on for sure. He said he doesn't care about the money, but it's just the stage, it's the production, it's that big vision thinking that we all love about Sheffield, that we want to be able to bring in. We want to be able to bring into the sport. And speaking of bringing in someone with a big vision and a big man himself, we're going to go ahead and bring in Ellis McClain here. So LS is in the building. And Stephen Crane, he also mentioned that Keiko owns the 93s, and that's true. So, like, if Russ was going to go up to the 93s, and Mike Gold, what was your take on that from the mythical, the legendary band episode?
So my take was, it didn't really have to do with like which one would win. It was more of a matter of like, they are like boys. Like, I mean, obviously, like the Flex family like goes far. Like, there's a lot of them. And it's inevitable that some of them are going to have to compete against each other. But Russ is like one of the older members, as well as Kiko. They're two of like the older members from that crew. They've both been around for on the scene for years with Flex. They both went from not being national champions to being world champions with Flex, and I think like they're really, really good individual friends. So I don't think he would like intentionally go to force a battle there. Like we're not talking about like it's not an avoidance thing. Russ is an 83, so stay there. That's the weight class that he's owned in terms of just over the world for like the last 5 years, like ever since that first battle with Brett Gibbs. Like obviously Delaney's won the last 2 world championships, but in terms of like the person who is the most known person, the most known 83, whatever, and maybe put it on the map is Russ. So I don't think he would want to switch weight classes. Like that's the class he wants to come back to. That's the class he wants to win another world championship and multiple more world championships. Like I'm pretty sure he's like said, like he wants to, records will always be broken, but he wants to go down like in history as like the greatest 83 at minimum, if not the greatest in general, if they're the greatest 83 of all time. And to do that, like you got to keep stacking chips. It's not like winning 1 or 2 and like hitting just like a huge total, because the totals will always be broken, but chips last forever.
Yeah. Speaking of a man with chips, we got one here that's got 2 of them, which I believe is the same number as Russ. And also just to also reiterate, he did say in there that maybe one day he'll go 93, but for now he's very adamant he's sticking 83. So, but welcome to the show, Ellis McClain, 2-time classic open world champion, reigning best lifter from Masters Worlds as well. So what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Really, really good, actually, man.
Oh, your audio sounds good.
Yeah, it's crispy, right? Yeah, like that.
I like it.
Yeah, man, good.
We were just talking about Mike Gold has this idea, and we had Robert Keller on, and he's got a connection with John Gruden. We're talking about something we're calling the John Gruden Invitational, which is a charity event where you bring in a bunch of as many NFL athletes as we can, and we make them go head to head with our studs like Jesus and Taylor and all these. And so just real quick before we get into the stuff we brought you in here to talk about, what NFL athletes would you want to see, like who could actually go toe to toe with some of the powerlifting's best in powerlifting?
Are we talking like present, past, or just
present that we could get? Like, let's say if we hosted this meet in 2 years, we could get them to do it.
If they did it, we wouldn't know. No powerlifter would win. I mean, I can pop you off 4 right now.
Do it. Pop them off.
Saquon Barkley, no one's touching him. Like easy, no one's touching him. No one's touching him. I'll repeat that. No one's touching him.
Well, but wait, what weight class? Because he would be at least he'd be like a 105 or maybe a 120.
He'd be a 93 to 105. No one's touching him. Okay. No one's touching him.
105. You don't think Ashton?
No one's touching him. now that that's been settled.
Okay.
Because remember, you forget, like, okay, so for us, I mean, and again, speaking as a former football player, the pro thing and all that stuff, when you go over to the powerlifting side from being a just an actual, I can't say an actual athlete, but like, a team sport athlete. When you're in the gym, especially like during training and stuff, off season, you're not necessarily focused on the big 3 at all. So like you're saying, in a couple of years, you're going to give any of these guys an opportunity to focus on the big 3. Hell, even for 2 blocks, it's a wrap, dude. It just is what it is. You got to think these guys' base strength is already through the roof. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, we want you to focus on 3 lifts. You don't have any off season to go through. You don't have to, you don't necessarily even have to really like worry about your cardio or anything. You just got to focus on these 3 lifts for, 3 or 4 months before going to an invitational. It's a wrap for everyone.
No playbook to memorize.
You don't have to do. All you got to do is like, hey, can you count? Cool. Can you hit depth? Bet. Can you listen? All right, we're good. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much it. And then you got to think. I mean, it's just. If you Saquon alone, then I mean that's an absolute wrap. Now, if you start going linemen, you can literally take your pick. You'll tell me that okay, we'll use one. We'll just stay with the Dallas Cowboys, right? We'll say let's invite Martin and let's invite. I'm trying to think of who else would we invite. Honestly, you invite Zach Martin, it's a wrap for everybody.
Yeah.
So you got a 320, 230 pound man that tosses.
You think it's a wrap for Jesus? He's going to be Jesus?
Yes.
It happens to be. if we're going to talk about Cowboys linemen, that it would be a wrap. If we're going back in history, legend has it.
We're not going to use. That's why I didn't use Larry Allen. That's why I didn't use Larry Allen. That's why I said you heard me when I at the very first. I was like, hey, are we going past present? Because if we go past, all we got to do is say Larry Allen. There's absolutely no one touching him.
Yeah.
This guy's repping 700 pounds. Are you serious?
Paul, on bench.
On bench.
Yeah, that's like the most legendary football lift of all time. Larry Allen.
I mean, we could go John Randall. No one's touching him. You know, we could go, what's his face? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Play for the Steelers.
Oh, James Harrison.
Harrison.
Oh, he's got to be on the list.
Who's touching James Harrison?
Got to be on the list.
Who's touching James Harrison?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Even now, he's been retired for like 4 years or something.
I mean, 500.
You know what though? I can put you on game. I saw one. I can't say the name, but I saw one. I've actually seen two Alabama running backs in their offseason program when they were in college. Trent Richardson was one of the strongest people I've ever seen walking the planet in my life. We're talking front squatting, 600 plus, like it's nothing. Like talking back squatting 800 plus, like it's nothing. And mind you, it's not like this guy's pushing over 220. You know what I mean? He's not over 220. So I mean, there's some guys out there that are just absolute beasts. You know what I mean? And again, with powerlifters, we're talking about the 1% of the 1% of the strongest lifters in the world. With these NFL guys, we're talking about the 0.5% of the 1% of just the strongest, most athletic people that are breathing. It's just there's levels to it, and I mean that's why when you have a person that had like a pretty decent team sport career that ends up coming over to powerlifting, they tend to dominate. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of is what it is. I mean, because that's not your focus, but you're still able to be one of the strongest, fastest people that's walking the planet. But you just have to put that combination together, on the field to throw other human beings around.
Well, tell us, because you're one of those guys, right? And you came into powerlifting kind of late in terms of powerlifting is concerned. Tell us, just for people because we got a lot of young listeners and everything, like tell us, when did you come into the sport and where were you at in like your sporting career at the time?
I came into powerlifting, like no joke, like right at the tail end of year 33 of my life. So, I mean, I had done, weird saying it, but I had done pretty much everything you could do in terms of like a team sport. I did the football thing. I did pretty well at that. Did the track and field thing. I did pretty well at that. I went, to a really good school for track and field. So, when you do that, you chase your pro dreams, you chase your sponsorships and all that good stuff. And you're like, all right, cool. There's always that, for those of the listeners that, that have pursued that, there's a point where you're like, all right, what's life after pro sports? What's life after football? Life after whatever. So I was at that point of life after. Now for me, my big thing, after, doing the chasing the pro dreams and all that stuff and, having some fairly decent success, my thing was, all right, well, I still want to be in shape. I still want to, lift and have a good time, So for me, I still look at the old muscle and fitness magazines, and everyone has their Arnold influence. My biggest influence was Lee Haney. I thought he was just the most beautiful man that walked the planet. He was just huge and symmetrical, and he was Mr. O. And so I just like, what, I want to do that. I want to bodybuild or whatever. But I didn't really like eating a lot, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize you had to eat that much to get that big. And then I didn't know that you had to have other goodies and all the other stuff under the Christmas tree to really get to that size. So, I mean, I just kept lifting and lifting and lifting. And I got to a point where, you lift a lot of weight, but you're lifting a lot of weight that's heavier than the average person. And so I honestly, the gym that I was training at, I should say at that point, working out, not training, the gym I was working out at, they're like, hey dude, what you're doing is, it's heavier than normal. Have you ever thought about powerlifting? I'm like, nah, man, I'm good on that. I appreciate you. Thanks for the offer. Like, no, you should do it. But yeah, like I said, bro, I'm good. I don't really feel like doing that. And I was really good friends with the guys that, that I worked out with. And the guys pretty much cornered me at one point, like, hey, you know what? So we're going to sign you up for this meet. We think you need to go and do it. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to do it. Went and did it like legit. Like I had these old like used Ray-Ban sleeves. I had an Inzer, the old school throwback Inzer singlet that has barely any elastic in it and everything. Like one of the guys let me borrow. And I had a pair of Vans and a belt that I borrowed. And so I went up to the meet, and honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I just really liked the people. People were just dope. So, you know what, man, I'm I guess I'll do one more. And I get that. I guess the next meet I had qualified for was nationals. Went to nationals, won it, made the world team. Went to worlds in Russia, had a time of my life. And at that point, you research a lot of the lifters and everything. The only lifter that I really had known of prior to that was Brad Gillingham. And if you guys don't know who Brad Gillingham is, you need to Google Brad Gillingham. But I did my research and looked up Brad Gillingham. I'd seen his poster in GNC, and it was Brad Gillingham, world champion powerlifter. I'm like, all right, cool, that's what's up. To actually see that guy in real life, I'm like, yo, this is different. He was such a nice guy. And like most people that that love powerlifting, that fall in love with powerlifting, it's one of the few sports where people that become your heroes can actually become an actual friend of yours. And guy befriended me, and was just super nice. And I was like, you know what, I want to come back. I want to try it again. And I mean, the more I kept coming back, the more I fell in love with it. The more I fell in love with it, the more I wanted to do it. And fast forward, 10 plus years later, I'm here. So yeah, man. I mean,
it's amazing.
Yeah, man.
And that you finished fourth in that world championships, by the way. So as far as that whole athlete, football guy coming off the field and then just coming in and smoking everyone, you finished fourth in the world championships, and then a couple years go by, and then you got two back-to-back world titles, and then now in the Masters you got another ring. So
yeah, man,
it's true. I mean, even the current crop of world champions that we have, a lot of them have that team sport and that football background, like Taylor and these guys we've been talking about.
But it's fun.
But I wanted to, we brought you in here. We got big news to talk about with the athlete survey. You're on the athlete committee of Powerlifting America. So I just wanted to have you in and talk about it, and then also just kind of introduce the people and bring you into this Monday Night Live show that we're doing, because as you can see, we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff. And I know you can talk. So I definitely want to have you in here more often and talk about some of these fun sports these sports topics and stuff. But go ahead and hit us with the athlete survey and what you're all doing with the athlete committee.
Yeah. So a lot of you may not know that Powerlifting America started an athlete committee. I'm actually one of the co-chairs, myself and Melissa Copeland. There's 4 or 5 of us, man. Our biggest goal obviously is to represent the athletes, represent the membership. It's weird to say it out loud, but to hear your questions, comments, concerns, and to try to find the best solutions to help you guys out. At the same time, having been athletes or being current athletes, within the federation, it's a chance for us to have a close connection, a closer voice, within the governing body of Powerlifting America. I think in the past, and even with other feds, I mean, there's always a high degree of disconnect between the athletes and the powers that be, and so a lot of stuff gets lost just because there's just a higher degree of disconnect. I mean, so our job really is to really mend that, to bridge that gap in terms of the disconnection that could occur. So one of the ways we're trying to do that is we dropped a survey for people to fill out. And I mean, it's a super, super simple survey. You may have seen some of your favorite lifters, kind of talking about it or whatever. If you haven't, it's super simple. There's been a few links out there. You can go to my IG. I have a link there for it. You go to the Powerlifting America site. There's a link for it there. It's just a simple survey for the membership, just to kind of fill out and really, give us an idea of your thoughts, questions that you may have, some concerns that you may have, and I think that the biggest thing is we just, as a people in general, we're really, really good at pointing out things that are wrong, and talking about things that can happen, things that could be better. But then when we're given the tools to try to make it better, we tend to kind of sit on our hands. So this is an opportunity for 1, not to sit on their hands, 2, for you to actually take a little action, and 3, man, it's just, you don't necessarily have to be you don't have to be Albert Einstein with it. Just go fill it out and you're done. And it gives us an opportunity to hear what you guys have to say. And I'm hoping that, we so far, I'm hoping that, the trend keeps continuing in terms of people filling out, because we've had a ton of people filling it out, and it's anonymous. So it's not like, we're going to like, oh, so-and-so says they don't like me, I don't like them. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just, it's pretty A9. You go, you fill it out, you say what you got to say, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of see what the membership wants. So yeah, man.
For sure. Julia, did you say that you have a question? I saw in the chat here that you
It's okay.
commented.
It passed. I don't want to distract from this. This is more important.
Okay. And any questions for LS with regard to like the role of the athlete committee? So tell us a little bit about how it works. I mean, are you guys like involved in board meetings and stuff?
Yeah,
do you have a vote?
Myself and Melissa, we actually have a vote. So it's just weird, man, because again, I'm so used to just, all right, what do we need to do? Awesome, let's go do that. So to be on this end in terms of like the decision-making process and see how much time is put into making decisions. It's just weird. It's like everyone wants a hot dog until they see how the sausage is made type. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, just for simple things to get accomplished. So it really kind of, gives us an idea of, how much thought, and, critical thinking goes into just making, the most simple decisions, for the federation, because you have so many people to consider, so many avenues that, that people can take. So, obviously there's a lot of careful thought goes into everything. So for us, our biggest things, again, it's just the representation of the athlete, to try to be the athlete's voice, because sometimes that voice, it's not that it's not heard, it's just sometimes it's not as loud as it could be. So to have, two voting members on the board, to, kind of reiterate what the athlete feels, some concerns that we have. And of course, Melissa and myself, we've both been on, world championship teams. We've both been champions. So it's one of those things where, we know what it feels like. It's easy to have a decision made in your favor when, you're top dog open team. It's a lot harder to feel like your decisions and your voice is heard when you're, Joe Schmo from, Podunk, wherever. And, this is your first meet. Do they even know who I am? Do they even care? What I think? Do they even care, where I'm coming from? So, I've been both. So my biggest thing, I think that we've really been trying to focus on is making sure that any and all voices are heard, and that people feel like there's equal representation of how they feel.
That's great, man. You guys are both really smart. You've both been in the game for a minute, and so it's a great perspective. It's good to have some fresh voices in there, and just representing the athletes, thinking all things athlete. I mean, Powerlifting America is for the athlete across the board. Everyone that's on that board. We had Robert Keller on here earlier. Everything we're doing is for the athletes, but it's good to have it from the athlete perspective as well. A current world champion level athletes that are in the room when these decisions are being made. So that's huge, man. And we really appreciate you doing it. And, you spoke on something like everyone wants a hot dog and until they see how it's made. And we definitely find that out on the media team. Like we get a lot of people that want to be volunteers and stuff, but when they finally see like, this is a ton of work to maintain so like all the media.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I agree. I think it's hard, it's hard when you're outside looking in, because you don't know how much stuff goes on inside. And then like when you are on the, kind of on the inside and you see like, oh my gosh, man, like there's so much more that goes into it, So again, kind of, loop back to what I said before, our job is to kind of bridge that gap, because again, from the athlete's perspective, a lot of people don't know, really what goes on in terms of these meetings and how much thought is put into the smallest details of things being made. We just feel like, you got one guy at the top making decisions and that's it. And it's not necessarily the case at all. There's a lot of people that are working their butts off to make sure, that everyone's taken care of. And it's hard because you have, a massive amount of people. Like our membership keeps growing and keeps growing and keeps growing, which is an awesome thing. That's such a blessing. But obviously, as more plates are at the table, everyone's going to want a piece, so we try to make sure that everyone gets fed. It's real simple in all honesty. But yeah, I think they do such a good job. And I'm talking about, the rest of the board members in terms of how much thought is put into just, just making sure people are taken care of. And,
Yep.
you know, the plans that they have, you know, for, you know, not just growing this federation, but really, you know, growing the sport of powerlifting, you know. So, I mean, if you think about every thought that they're making, it's not just about our federation, but it's also how our federation, you know, can do its job in contributing to the growing of the sport of powerlifting. So, I mean, you know, I think for me, that's been the cool part, man. And, you know, it's hard being on the inside, you know, and want to tell everybody, dude, I promise you, these people care for you. They care about you. They care about what you're doing. I mean, you know, I can use you, Paul, for example. I don't think people know how much stuff you actually do behind the scenes. And I don't think people don't understand, you know, you had a few people that are doing a ton of jobs to make sure that a lot of people are taken care of. I mean, and that, for me, that's been a cool thing to see, like how hard you guys work behind the scenes, you know. So to be a part of that, to be just a small, minute piece of that, man, it's definitely an honor. But it's also like, yo, I gotta get my grind on because I'm getting outworked. I need to work harder. You know what I mean?
I love it. There's competition even in that. All right. So LS, can you stick with us? We're gonna bring in Claire's Eye. If you gotta go at any time, you just peace out and bounce if you need to. But sure. We got Claire's Eye in the waiting room, so we're gonna bring her in, and it's a good transition because I wanted to ask you as well, LS. Mm-hmm. Are you going to the North American Championships? We're a week out.
Yeah. I'll be there.
And so you were Panama Poppy last year. You were stuck in the airport. You almost didn't make it. I remember the video so vividly that you were there last time. Here's Claire in the room. Welcome, Claire's Eye. Superstar Claire's Eye in the house. You got your mic on mute. It's all good. But we were just asking LS about if he's going to be going to the North American Powerlifting Championships. And LS, go ahead and answer that. Tell us what you got going on down there.
Yeah, I'll be going, man. I have a couple guys that are competing. I'm super stoked to see how they do. So with those guys competing, I'm also going to be helping out. I'm in the warm-up room and helping with numbers and stuff with a few of the other athletes. And honestly, dude, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna try to have a good time. I don't know, man. Wait, are you going?
You know I'm gonna be there.
Of course you're going. So
this is my favorite meet of the year.
Most likely I'll probably, be shadowing Paul at some point. And I already told him if you guys need help with the live stream, I'll hop on the live stream. If you need help, I'm just like utility. I'm excited because this is the first NAPF that I go as a coach, and I don't lift. I just go, I just get to enjoy myself. Not that I don't enjoy myself as a lifter, but it's fun on the coaching end, because I can help, kind of help out a little bit more. So yeah, man, I will be there. To answer your question, I will definitely be there.
Yeah. So LS will be there. He'll be a Swiss Army knife doing everything from comic relief in the warm-up room for nervous people to live stream commentary, which you're going to get roped into a bunch of that as well, which is great. And Stephen Crane is in the chat. He will be your co-host there. But Claire's Eye, welcome. How's your mic?
It's there better. It is. I just had to unmute it. It wasn't that hard.
Okay, awesome. Welcome. So yeah, we're talking NAPF, and here we have one of the superstars of the Open team, the U.S. Open team, headed to the North American Powerlifting Championships. How are you doing, Claire?
I'm great. I'm very excited. I can't believe I fly out in a week. Yeah, back to the airport.
Yeah, it's exciting. So tell us, you just got out of the airport. Where did you head to? You said it was your hometown. Where are you from? I was looking. I was like, where is Claire from? If you mind saying?
Yeah, I was in Colorado. I went to school in Boulder, and one of my college roommates was getting married. So I spent my entire weekend dancing.
Nice.
And then I hopped on a plane very early this morning, and I will be back at the airport in a week. So should be fun.
Amazing. Yeah. So you got your cardio in with the dancing and all that stuff.
Yes.
Nice. That's exciting. All right. So we wanted to ask you, how is your prep going for the North American Championships? And how excited are you for it?
I'm so excited. Prep is going really, really well. I have created a theme for myself for the whole prep, and it's just to be resilient. No matter what happens. This is my first international meet, and so I'm trying to be very conscious of the fact that things are going to go weird, and I want to be able to prepare for whatever happens. And so my whole mindset going into prep was, I'm going to be resilient. When things go weird, I'm going to have a positive mindset about it and just keep going forward. And so that's kind of how it's been going. I've hit some all-time PRs. I've matched some PRs. Yeah. So it's been good.
Oh,
locked and loaded, boy.
Yeah.
She's revealing a little information, so hopefully her competitors are not watching. I mean,
I don't
we want the views and the subscribers, but
well, okay, but here's my thought process. I fully admit that you can do things in competition to hurt your competitors, but that is not the spirit with which I want to go into competition. And that's fine if other people want to do that, but I want to come in and I want to say, all right, here's my plan. I know what I can do, and I know the conditions under which I did each of these lifts. So I post on Instagram partially because it's good for me and my views and my business.
Right.
And I'm
for
like,
the community. It helps the community when you do that.
That too. And so, I hit an all-time PR today on squats. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I hit an all-time PR today, and there's nothing. I just want to celebrate that because I'm really excited.
Awesome.
And my goal for this meet is to just go and have fun. So
that's so cool. That's so cool. I just did like a 2-hour podcast with Meg Scanlon. I'm not sure if you listened to it, but I mean, she just has such a great mental approach and talked a lot about having fun as being a key component to having success. That she tried it the other way of like being like super intense and not having fun and like worried about everything. And she said, she had some success with that, but having fun is what really helps her to have the most success. And so I think Claire, like, cause I was at your last 2 competitions and I would say you had fun a little bit. I don't think at nationals it was you didn't say you're having like super fun. I know Reno was pretty laid back and you definitely had fun at that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so is that a different mental approach then that you're taking for this?
A little
Or is
bit.
okay.
My life personally has been kind of challenging. And so my goal has been this resilience and partially falling back in love with powerlifting. I had before my last meet cut 6 times for the last 7 meets. And the one meet I didn't cut for was the most fun meet I did. And I was like, well, hold on, let's reevaluate this. And going into this meet, I am wanting to have fun because powerlifting should add to my life. And because there's so much else going on, I'm just so excited that I can do both. I can have a stressful life that brings me a lot of joy because I enjoy the intensity at which I live my life, and the intensity with which I can bring to lifting also is now adding to it instead of being extra, extra hard. So.
Absolutely. That's cool. I'm so pumped to see you. You just seem like you have a little different spirit going on. And I like that you've like reframed or at least sort of, now exactly what powerlifting is in your life. And you've kind of been able to make it that fun, exciting part of it. And so this is going to be a blast. And I don't know, do you look at your competitors? Do you know who you're going against?
Yeah. Sammy DePass is going to rock it out there. I can't wait to see. I think she undershot her world's attempts. So I'm excited to see what she does on the platform. So I'm expecting some big numbers out of her.
And then another superstar too, Christine Castro will also be in your class. Have you ever met either? You never met either of them?
I've not met either of them. No.
Oh, they are good people. They're both good people. And like you were saying, this camaraderie that you'll have, man, these are 3 badass women that are going to all have fun and put on a show. So I'm so pumped for it. Julia, did you say you have a question? Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah. So I remember first seeing you compete at, I think it was the California State Championships. And I remember I was just like, wow, this girl is super strong. And I think that the weight classes were like 72 back then. So I guess my question is, do you feel like this is going to be a weight class where you're going to hit, your full potential and like you feel like you belong in this weight class? Because I know that change was a little bit of a shock to a lot of us,
Yeah. Well, and then also if you were in 72, you probably also dropped down to 67, which I tried to do as well. So there's been a lot of weight class changes for those middleweight women, and it's been tough. I don't know. I don't want to say that this is where I'm going to like live forever because things change. But right now it seems to fit me really well. I get to, like I said, live my life, being able to go to a wedding and be around food in a much more free way and open way when I'm not cutting down to 11% body fat is pretty incredible. And I want to be able to go to weddings and go out to dinner with my friends a couple weeks before and celebrate birthdays. And I think that's what's so important about our lives as a whole is we're not just celebrating powerlifting, we celebrate all of our lives, and I get to engage in that in a way that makes me feel connected to my people. And that's what's really important to me, is being connected to my community and being able to be involved in that community and make a change in it, both my small community and the larger community of powerlifting. So
well, I'm happy that hopefully we can have some dinner or some food after, or even maybe
after we can always have dinner.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited about this because you're going to be able to actually go and eat and stuff. But you're right. I mean, it's such a social thing, eating food. Like for me, like the thought of like even like turning down a cheeseburger or something is just like out of the question. Like it's so much like one of those small wins that you can have any given day is like a great meal, and with friends.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy for you mentally for that. How you mentioned I know you made a post that went viral. I think it was a really big one that blew up, that talked about, I think, like weight classes and like weight class PRs and like body weight PRs and things like that. And so how has it been mentally adjusting to going up a weight class? And like, do you feel like if you're hitting a similar number that you hit when you were 69, that it like means less, or how have you been sort of navigating that whole thing?
Yeah. So to contextualize the conversation, the post was about how lifts are not less impressive if you are at a heavier body weight, and not more impressive if you are at a lighter body weight. And how I like to conceptualize this for myself, and sometimes for my athletes as well, or the athletes I work with, is that these PRs or these weights that we're hitting are always impressive because I have worked to get here, and I'm still the same person I was when I was 69 kilos. I just now have more body fat, and I'm a heck of a lot happier. And so it doesn't, I understand that objectively the numbers have to be there because that is the style of the sport, but I see so many people tear themselves down. And I have actively chosen to let go of that and say, nope, it does not matter what I weigh to move 400 pounds. The human Claire's I, am still moving 400 pounds. And that's really cool. And I shouldn't discount that by what my relation to the earth is. So that's kind of,
that's a really healthy approach. And I think we want to see more of people like eating up into weight classes as opposed to these crazy cuts. I mean, there's just there's so many variables that you can't control when you're doing cutting and you're going across the world and you're traveling different places and whatnot. And it can just add in this thing where it's like, we want to see, like, again, on the Meg Scanlon episode, we talked about like her and Corolla and Leah all being kind of like light 69s, that like obviously Meg the lightest because she's filling out 63 now, but it's pretty easy for her to stay at 63. And then Corolla's kind of tough to be 63, is more like a 65. Leah competing around 65, 66. And just like how awesome it would be if they can all go to Sheffield as 69s and just like fuel their bodies to the maximum to have the absolute best possible performance, and not have any of this stuff of like, the cut hurt me, or because of the cut I couldn't do this or couldn't do that, or I wasn't recomped in time for squat, but I was for deadlift, and we just want to see them at their absolute best.
Yeah, absolutely. I also just want more narratives in powerlifting. I don't want the narrative to always be, and I just want to like lead the charge of saying like, okay, there are a bunch of people doing it this way. There's nothing wrong with doing it this way. You can cut really hard. And if that's what makes you happy right now, great. I'm going to be over here doing this. There are a bunch of people who want to also do this. And then hopefully somebody else pops up and is like, I'm going to do something else. And just creating more diversity in how we powerlift and how we're successful, I think will be very powerful in not only growing the sport, but creating lifelong athletes, not just people who do it for a couple of years. So
that's just so good. I'm happy. That's a great perspective. Do you guys have anything else, Julia or LS or Michael? Do you guys have any other burning questions for Claire?
So what I'm excited for, Claire, is after you're done with this meet, the addiction that you're going to have to international lifting.
I'm already addicted. Don't worry. I never want to go back.
I'm going to be completely 100 with you. I think you and Christina are going to become the fastest of friends. She is the best.
Where's she coming from? What country?
Castro.
Canada.
Yeah, she's coming from Canada, and she is hilarious. One of the best. But I think, for me, watching, because you competed against, I should say one of mine competed against you back at Ron, that's a while back. And I just remember you walking in the room, I'm like, wait a minute, things have changed. Okay, cool. And okay, so as, and you know how it is as a coach. You have to, you don't necessarily poker face it, but like, okay.
Yeah, you poker face
the
it.
numbers.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
It's like you see the numbers and you're like, all right, well, we know what we're getting ourselves into prior to even coming to the meet. We know what our chances are in terms of making podium, but then it's one thing, to see your athlete's competition walk in the room, but you watch also how your athlete's competition moves, and you move so differently in the warm room, which is a great thing.
I don't know what that means.
It's I'm gonna get to it, trust me.
Okay, tell me.
No, so for me, in terms of moving differently, it's you have a quiet confidence about yourself, when you're back there in the warm-up room. Because I do believe, the great athletes know what they're capable of. Not just in terms of what they can't do, but what they're able to do. But at the same time, I feel like when you walk in a room, at least from what I see, the idea of limitations doesn't exist. It's just, execution. And so it was just fun watching, and I mean, you're nice to everybody and all that good stuff, which, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, either you're nice in the warm room, or you're not, it's just one or the other. But I mean, I just remember her walking up and says, "Oh my gosh, that's Claire." I'm like, "Yep."
Thank you. That's so very sweet of you to say that.
That
means a lot to me.
And I mean, it's weird, fast forward to present day, seeing all that you've accomplished from, just, 2 and 3 years ago to now. And obviously how many people you impact. But I feel like this is right where you're supposed to be as an athlete in terms of, international competition, in terms of, the love that people show you, how excited everybody are. I should say how excited everybody is about having you, on the U.S. team, and again, it kind of, and I'm going to get Paul back on this with this one, but we had actually talked about, really having a lot of our top lifters, our rising stars, actually competing in NAPF. And actually, being a part of this, because this is just as important as an open, just as important as going to Sheffield. I mean, this is the representation of your country. And I think for the longest time, it wasn't necessarily seen as that. It was kind of seen as the B team, but now we literally have 2 A teams going, on international competition. And it was weird because, again, Paul can attest to this, that we talked about it last year at NAPF in Panama. It was like, you know what, it's just gonna take a couple of those A-listers, man, and it's gonna take off. And I was thinking maybe next year. This year we're just loaded, man, and the women's side is completely loaded. And and I'm not gonna lie, I giggle a little bit when I'm seeing like, oh my God, we have Claire on this. This is crazy, because of the impact that that women like yourself, like that you have obviously on the sport. It's such a growing sport, but I mean, it's really growing on the female end, of course, just to the nth degree. So to have you and Meg and and Heather kind of at the forefront of that in terms of just how many eyes are on you, how your opinions are just gold to so many young women out there that are that are watching, that watch you, that follow you. But to have you on this team, I think it's exactly what we need in terms of the validity and validation to these NAPF teams. Because I don't feel like it's I never have felt like it was the other world team. It's an additional US team. So to have you and lifters of your caliber on it, it's huge.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you, and thank you for the comparison to both Meg and Heather. That feels very nice. Thank you.
Y'all are top tier, man. I mean, your work speaks for yourself.
And
facts are facts.
You just inspire so many. And but this, like, LS was kind of like our guy last year. I mean, as far as name brand lifters that everybody knows, we had LS there last year, and we had a bunch of other really great lifters. Like Aliza is like the crowd favorite you're gonna see. I mean, you met her probably at nationals in Austin, but like she's gonna be running around the whole time and just one of the crowd favorites, and it's amazing. But this year, I mean, the team is just it's leveled up a whole nother level. And then again, having you there will inspire more people to, accept their invite to the North American Championships again next year. And so it'll just get bigger and bigger. And then you see like these other women that you're going to be going against, they're not slouches by any means. It's not going to be a cakewalk by any means over here. So it's going to be fun. And as it gets more competitive, it's just going to be like another one of these big international competitions for sure.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Very excited.
For sure. All right. So do you guys have any more questions? Julia, did you say that there was one thing you want to touch on before we move on to another topic? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, again, like your approach to powerlifting is really beneficial, and I'm really glad that you put a lot out there about this, because one thing that I've seen competing on the WRPF side especially is these people who come up super fast and they're super into powerlifting, and they do these huge cuts and they burn out within a few years, like you said. And powerlifting and lifting in general it's good for you. It's a good thing to do your whole life, and you absolutely can. And I think a lot of people, especially young people, have this idea that they want to get to the top the fastest, and sometimes the more lasting legacy and the better path would be to enjoy yourself and enjoy your life, and you can still get to the top. I mean, look at you. So I think that that's a really good message, and I'm glad you're spreading that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think I try and always think about the messaging I would have wanted 10 years ago when I started in the gym, and then the messaging I would have wanted 5 years ago when I started powerlifting. And it's not the messaging I got, and I want to be that person. And I think I watch people like Meg Scanlon, and I look at her daughters, and I'm like, wow, they're going to have such a cool upbringing, having the caliber of athlete that they have for a mom. And we get to actively choose the generation that we raise, whether or not we choose to have kids. And I want to raise a generation of powerlifters that are not mine. This sounds a little weird, but I want to raise a generation of powerlifters who get to choose how they kind of interact with the sport. And if they do one meet, great, I love it. If they do 100 meets, great, I love it. And I just want to give people those options and an increased diversity in the sport in lots of ways. So.
Well, that's a really good transition to the next topic then that we wanted to bring up with you, because just to reiterate, so just move away from NAPF for 1 second. Your prep is going amazing, right? You don't have anything else you want to say about the prep? You're feeling good. You're feeling healthy.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't tell you if I wasn't feeling healthy. So
I know, but I just, hey, just put that, just say it. And then, cause I know you did post that you matched your all-time best squat and deadlift last week. I saw on your story today, last heavy squat of the prep. And you already said that you hit a PR. So that's fantastic. So if anyone is listening and they think that Claire's sleeping or something, she's not, you better be paying attention.
I did take a nap before this, but
she's not resting on her laurels though. Like, she's ready to put up some numbers down here, and we're gonna have a fun time competing with some really strong women down there as well. But the next topic that I wanted to bring up, and a good transition from the stuff that you were just talking about, is just like where we are today with women's sports. Because right now, we talked about this, I think maybe it wasn't on our band episode, I can't remember at this point, but we talked about it on one of the Monday Night Lives that women's sports are blowing up right now. And we mentioned specifically the FIFA Women's World Cup is happening right now. The US women's national team is back-to-back world champions, and a lot of people tune in for that. I think, like me personally, I don't even watch the men's team. I only watch the women's team because they're the team that over the years, since going back to the 90s, has won the most world championships, and they're like legit contenders every single year. But even in like NCAA, we saw Angel Reese this year just blow up in women's basketball, and she even made the comment that she can make more money on name, image, likeness endorsements staying at LSU than she can going to the WNBA. But just imagine when she joins the WNBA, that's going to help the exposure there as well. So it's just like in America, at least, and I think probably a similar trend worldwide with the World Cup stuff. Women's sports are like really on the rise, like the U.S. women's national team fighting for equal pay with the men's team, which they obviously have like so many more rings. They deserve to be paid twice as much, in my opinion, than the men. But yeah, so given all of that stuff with powerlifting or with women's sports just really starting to finally come into its own and to be really accepted, where more women are doing it, more women are watching sports, more men are watching women's sports. How do you think that powerlifting fits into this sort of whole landscape that women's sports is in now?
Yeah, I think the exception or the media's ability to accept that women's sports are interesting. I think women have realized that women's sports are interesting for a long time. It's really powerlifting is in an interesting spot because the last time I checked, which I think was about 3 years ago, I can't remember the exact data that I checked, but I think it was USAPL data that was like 2-to-1 men to women. And I know that is no longer accurate. So it's cool to see it grow, but I think it's a big trying to connect it back to what I said earlier. It's a huge opportunity for us to create multiple narratives for how you can do powerlifting. And I think for me, like watching the Sheffield and watching Worlds later, because I couldn't watch it live, was so inspiring to me to see the equal representation of men's and women's powerlifting as a whole, and then to additionally see the strides that we still need to make, where we're still kind of looking at how maybe women's powerlifting is undersold a little bit, and there is no pushback on the internet trolls, which I know is a silly thing to get upset about, but it does kind of represent public sentiment of like, oh, this person still arches a lot, even though they're hitting elbow depth. That's unfair. And for me, that's silly. And like this push against sumo seems really weird from a public perspective. I don't know how the IPF is kind of discussing that, but all of it just seems a little weird, and it amplifies how much room we have to grow. So, and I think something that made me realize this recently is I got to go to a Women's Sports Foundation event here in Seattle, and the event was super cool, but was not well enough set up that I was like, oh, lots of women are going to want to continue to do this and come back. And putting in that infrastructure to support the specific narratives that women kind of face. So I think women's powerlifting is so exciting, not because it's women and I understand the weights a lot better, which is part of it. Sometimes Mike Touchier will come up and train with me, and I look at his weights and I like have to count all the red plates and then do the math in my head to figure out how much weight it is. And it's so big to me, I can't even conceptualize it. But women's powerlifting is so exciting because it is the active reclamation of our power in understanding how much strength we actually have, when the narrative we've been fed for so long is that we are frail, that we are not ever going to be as interesting to watch as the men. And then we start powerlifting and they're like, wait a second, this was all wrong. 1, I'm really good at this. 2, I really enjoy it. And 3, I'm just as good as these dudes. And that's what I think is so powerful for women's powerlifting. And that's what I want us to focus on as a sport, and how that's done by each individual will be different, and by each federation will be different. But on the whole, powerlifting has work to do, but I think we're moving in the right direction. So
yeah, wow, there's a lot in there to talk about.
Yeah, sorry that
sure.
I talked for a really long time.
No, that was really good, really good. You touched on a lot of points that I know that we'll want to talk on. I want to kick it over to Julia. I know she has raised her hand for something that she wanted to say. Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, I mean, just to your point about, women being just as good at this as men, this year in the 63s, and obviously Jen Thompson is in the 67s in another federation, but there's women benching close to and over 300 pounds at a very low body weight, at 139, at 152, and we wouldn't have thought that was possible a few years ago. I remember, benching 225 was like a huge deal. Even 185, people would be like, no, you can't do that. Like, you're a small female. And now people are benching like, almost twice that much. It's really come a long way. And I think that the more we encourage women in sports, the more outliers we'll see come to this sport, and we'll see just how close we are. And I think we're in a very good spot here. So
yeah, muscle is muscle, and at some level matters just how much of it you can carry. So
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And talking about the numbers, I just pulled up this post from the IPF. At this year's World Championships in Malta, there was 169 women and 198 men.
Mhm.
So the number, from 59 countries.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. That, I mean, it's evening out at least. I mean, only 30.
Yeah, that's 3 to 4 about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot better than 2-1 for sure. And so that's cool to see that that's where we're at in the sport. And I think, Mike Gold, we talked about this before, that, I mean, it's like the numbers that Julia were just mentioning. It's like, I think, to me, that has the potential to grow the sport a lot more than seeing men bench a lot, because I think everyone expects men to bench a lot, but when they see a woman benching like what Meg can bench, what Julia can bench, and what you can bench, stuff like this, it's like Chelsea Savitt. I mean, it's like it blows their mind, and even though it triggers them as well, where it's like you see all the troll comments and stuff like that, but it also gets their attention. Like, they don't care if they see like LS benching 500. It's like, whatever.
Thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're just like, LS. I mean, bro, I mean, you should be benching like 600. That's probably what they'll say. But when you see like what Meg does, or like what Carola Gara, I mean, it's like these insane numbers, or like Agata Shiko. It's just like it catches them. It catches their attention, and that can be. It's good that it's attention catching. I think for people that want to grow the sport, half the people on the earth are women. And so, like, this is really cool that we could grow, like, double the size of the viewership. And this sport has a potential that I think other sports don't in that regard, because it's so comparable to what the men are doing, that it can really get their attention. It's just the hard part is like, how do we get their attention and not have them be like trolls about it, And Mike, did you have something on that topic? I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yeah. So I was going to say, part of it for me is like, when you go into, whether it's a powerlifting gym, but especially if you're going into like a commercial gym, so they've probably seen some people lifting like really heavy, but like in general, your average person in the commercial gym is like not like particularly strong. So the wow factor, when you see, like, forget about like Jen Thompson benching 315, when you see like a woman benching 225 in a commercial gym, the wow factor is like more insane than like anything I've seen. Like, it's just, people have literally never ever seen that in their entire life. So something like that, like, brings exposure. Stuff like that, like, will get reposted by like Sports Center or House of Highlights, like, different stuff like that, and will bring exposure. And in terms of like the trolls, like, the bottom line is there's always going to be trolls. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows how to deal with them. Like, ignoring them is like one thing. Because if you think about it, like, the ratio of like people being impressed to trolls is still like, you have way more people being like, wow, that's awesome, or like, that's insane, than you have people being like, oh, she lifted it 3 inches, or stupid thing like that.
Yeah.
So I think also the trolls are people that we're never gonna, to us, they're irrelevant. They're never going to be involved in the sport. They're never going to be fans of the sport. They're never going to be competing. What we're trying to like inspire and like get participation from the people that are like, wow, if somebody could do that, then maybe I could do that. Let me go into the gym and try doing it. Like, or I already go to the gym, but now that I see this sport, let me go online and sign up to a local competition and see what I could do. Like, that's who our like audience that we should be catering to, and that's like what we care about. So that's just like my take on it.
I totally agree with that. I also think that if we kind of, again, loop it back, lifting 225, no matter who you are, is impressive. Benching 225, regardless of your weight, your size, your gender, anything, 225 is a lot of weight. And I keep trying to impart this onto athletes that I work with, that you worked to get here. You put in a lot of effort, no matter what weight is on the bar. Stop discounting it by comparing it to other people. And so we do ourselves a disservice as a community when we're like, oh, it's so impressive that women did that. And I'm like, wait, it's so impressive that people do that. And it's impressive that on top of that, women have fought these social narratives to overcome that. I think that's what I want to focus on more so, of being like, yep, it's really impressive when anyone does it, because I don't want to tear down men by being like, 225, you're a dude, that's less impressive. I want to say everyone who's lifting 225, benching 225, that's impressive. I'm proud of you. If you're benching 135, honestly, if you're in the gym, I'm just happy about that. I have lost 2 grandmothers now to hip related falls that then ended up with complications and osteopenia. And I'm like, I just want to raise a generation of women where that's not a problem, where we don't face these problems. And I want to raise a generation of people who are healthier. And so, yeah, recognizing that there are social differences is important. And also recognizing that we are humans and powerful and resilient and autonomous is also cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. LS, you have any thoughts on this? The other thing I was going to say is just, I think why powerlifting is different is because in so many other sports, the men and women, they don't do the exact same thing. Like, so like in basketball, they play the same exact game, but they don't play against men, whereas in this, it's like, you're literally like at Sheffield going to have like Leah, and then 10 minutes later you're gonna have Jesus, and it's just like, it's so cool to see that they're on the exact same platform, the exact same stage. And in the IPF, with having the same number of weight categories for men and women, it means the same number of platform time, the same number of media coverage, the same number of medals given to men and women. And even in other sports where I think like there are some comparables across, like if you think about tennis, like you think like, oh, number of grand slams or number of speed of a serve or something like that, and it's kind of comparable. But like even in that, like women only do 3 sets or whatever, and men do 5 sets. And there's just all these little things that make the comparisons difficult. Like the women's league is like, it's actually a different league. It's not even under the same federation. So like when they have their championships at the end of the year, they're in different places. Like, I don't know, I just watched this tennis documentary, Match Point or whatever, on Netflix. So now I know everything about tennis, right? But
you're an expert. You watch
exactly.
a Netflix documentary, you're an expert.
But I mean, I just think powerlifting is really set up to be like, to really put women on this, give them a platform, have a platform for women that is like right on equal with men. Whereas in a lot of other sports, there's always this thing like Mike mentioned on one of the previous episodes, you can debate all day about like who's better, Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. They're never going to play each other. Like you could debate all day about the best women's soccer player versus the best men's soccer player. They're never actually going to play each other. So it's always
objectively Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, but in powerlifting, it's like the women can be like, no, we're doing it to the exact same standard. We're doing the exact same weights. And, we can do exactly what the men are doing. And so I just think it adds this, I think it just has this kind of, it's cool. That's one thing that's cool about it. Like even though we don't think of it as necessarily like the most progressive sport out there or anything like that, but it's definitely like this, the way it's set up, especially in the IPF with the same number of weight classes and everything, it's set up to be a very fair and equal sport for both men and women, and give men and women both the same amount of shine.
And I think that's a choice that we get to actively continue to make, and it will take active participation and active decision-making from all parties involved, men, women, athletes, and organizing officials to make that possible. And how we choose to implement rules, how well we choose to test the rules before they're implemented and see the effects is really, really important to me personally. And I think to that equity as a whole.
So you're hinting at something here, like in recent memory, recent past.
I'll tell you exactly what I think if you want.
I made the same argument. I think that like I'm talking about the bench rule, and I'm talking about, I think that it disproportionately affected women. And what is that your similar take?
It's actually not. I think it disproportionately affected people under 75 kilos.
Okay.
So smaller individuals who are more capable of getting into those higher arched positions. Do I think a rule change needed to happen? Maybe. I was not involved enough in evaluating every person's arch to make that decision. But I think that a closer look at, and I don't have data to back this up, so this is not in any way backed by any data, but looking at the individuals who have had to make a lot of changes, and I think it affected equipped lifters a lot. And so some of these like differences were not evaluated, and we're basing what a proper bench looks like on larger individuals, which is not a bad thing. It's just that's a choice that was made. And if that's the choice we want to base powerlifting on, that's fine. I don't believe that that's where a lot of people want powerlifting to go. So it's just I just think it takes more active implementation and communication between athletes and federating officials, federation
Well,
officials.
that totally makes sense. And
Yeah.
hey, we got we got the athlete committee co-chair here. So this is exactly why, we're trying to spearhead these kind of things. But I would just push back on one thing, because if we said 75, if we round that up to 76.
Oh yeah, I just forget which weight class I'm
if
in.
we round that up to 76, then and everyone like 76 and below, that is all of the women's weight classes except for 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, I mean, it does affect many more of the weight classes for women than it does for men. And part of me thinks about this whole thing with the trolls, with the arching and stuff, like it kind of originates, like, I guess people do troll men who have big arches as well. Maybe even ruthlessly sometimes. I know a few in particular, but
yeah, I know who you talk about.
But yeah, it definitely feels like, that there was an effect on women there, and that it was felt at least more by women. But I like your reframing of it as weight class based as opposed to gender based.
Yeah. I just think it did affect men. I know men that it affected,
Definitely.
and it's hard. And I don't want to make all arguments along a gender divide, because I don't think that's healthy either. Like, we need to give these conversations a nuanced view. And what I think is hard from my perspective, as I do see a lot of things through a gender perspective, and I try and come at these conversations with that knowledge and with that like self-reflection of like, all right, we already know you come into these things, Claire, gunning for women. It's fine. We got it. You like supporting women. And I try to actively take a step back and be like, all right, where are my biases? How can I change them? And what can we do to make powerlifting equitable in all ways? How can we get more stories in, more people? And how are we crossing race divides that may appear in powerlifting as a judged sport? I am in no way under any impression that race does not sometimes come into effect. Gender comes into effect. I have noticed differences in how people ask me all the time. They're like, why do you wear makeup on the platform? I'm like, because I recognize I'm being judged by a human who is a visually like programmed creature. So it's normal. Yeah.
This is why I wanted to talk to you. You have such a brilliant perspective on everything, Claire. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Keep going. Sorry to cut you
off.
No.
I don't know if I had more to say on that. So I just think, like all things, social interactions are hard. And if we want to make them equitable and improve diversity, equity, and inclusion within powerlifting, it's going to take active management. And that's really hard when we're asking individuals who are in power to give it up. And that is a choice that is really, it's hard to ask people to do that, but that is at some level what needs to happen. And then at another level, people need to also step up and step into their power and do these things. And I hope I inspire people to step up into their power. There's a quote I really like by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's, fight for the things that you believe in, but do it in a way that people want to follow you. Something along those lines, not verbatim. And that's just always what inspires me for how I want to kind of push powerlifting where I want to push it. So
that's awesome, Claire. You're so smart. You're so, I mean, just the way that you look at things is just different, and you bring a different voice to powerlifting.
Thank you.
I love that. So, does anyone else have any questions for Claire? Anything else that you guys want to chime in on? I told her we get her in and out of here in like 20 minutes, and it's been 40.
You're good. I have nothing else to do today, so I took my nap, so I'm happy.
All right, good. Yeah. So if anyone has any extra questions, or if anyone in the chat is hearing this and you have anything else that you want to ask Claire before we let her go, but yeah, I just want to say again, I mean, I love the perspective that you bring. I think it's going to be, now tell us a little bit more on NAPF. Is Jordan coming?
Jordan is coming. Yes.
Oh, he's not going to miss a trip to the Cayman Islands. I should have known.
Okay. I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm going to sign up for this meet. I don't expect you to come because that's a long trip. He's like, you have taken me to literally the worst places in the US. I'm absolutely coming to the Cayman Islands. And I was like, all right, fine. That's fair. I think everyone would have preferred Malta for multiple reasons, but the Cayman Islands is going to be awesome. And I can't wait to just sit on a beach and do nothing. And I'm excited to meet a lot of people because there are people I have not met
worldwide.
And like, I'm excited to meet Bryce Karachek. I've never met him.
Mhm.
But he's like kind of involved with both Mike and Jordan, who I'm
Mhm.
connected to.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to meet him. I'm excited to meet a bunch of new women and like make a bunch of friends. My favorite
Yeah.
thing, Gabby Martinez, who used to be she is a 69 currently.
Yeah.
She is one of my favorite powerlifters to lift with because we're just like buddies outside of powerlifting and it's really fun. And so I'm hoping to make more buddies like that.
You definitely will. NAPF, like Robert was just on here, he was saying it's like the friendship cup. I mean, everyone is everyone will be friends. And I mean, there are so many people, so many lifters at this that no one will hear about outside of this competition. And like they don't get the spotlight, they don't get the shine from like the international media and stuff like this, but they're just extremely good competitors that will be there. So one person in particular that I'll mention is Laura Estrella from Dominican Republic, who is basically running their federation down there and like just scraping tooth and nail to get their federation off the ground. Like you will love talking to her. She's
great.
Awesome.
I love
and
it.
then definitely Christine and Sammy and everyone. So it's going to be a really good time. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, then let's let Claire go because she's got big things to do. Okay, Claire. Thank you again so much for coming. Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Yes,
we'll
this
see you
was
in
so
like a
much
week.
fun. I know. Yeah.
So,
it's
all
so
of us will be there
exciting.
except for Mike Gold. So
Oh, well, that's a real bummer. It was very nice to meet you this way. So thank you so
Yes,
much for
exactly.
having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate what you all are doing with trying to spread these stories for athletes. It means a lot to us and you're growing the sport doing this. So it's appreciated. And I hope more people thank you for it. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. We'll see you later. Okay, wow. That was Claire is always so refreshing to talk to. She'll change your perspective on things. And one thing we're going to get into next is this Taylor Atwood King of the Lifts interview. And we're going to play a clip on that in just a second. But just one of the things that he talked about, I don't know if I have it in the clip, but it's just like surrounding yourself with people that, you know, give you different perspectives. And LS was talking about it with having the athlete committee on the board and stuff. And Claire is just, she's one of those people that you can think you have her pegged as a certain kind of opinion on something, like the whole question that I just had with the bench rule. And then she has a different perspective. It's a little bit different than what you think. So I love that. She's always challenging and forcing us to think differently. Mike, you got your mic open. What's up? What are you thinking?
No, I thought I'm getting ready for the Taylor thing. We're going to obviously discuss that, but I assume we're going to play the clip first.
Yes. And LS, are you good? You want to listen to this? So I got a 5-minute clip that cuts up a bunch of stuff from Taylor Atwood's interview with King of Lifts. I'm going to play that. So if you want to, take a little break here, you take a little bathroom break or anything like that. But if you haven't heard it, you have to listen to it so we can talk about it on the other side. Okay. Everyone's good with that?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to share the screen here and we'll get this clip going. And yeah, just if you do walk away, just leave your videos on so it doesn't mess up the thing or whatever. Just mute your mic. So, all right, here we go.
I've met a few people that recognize what I have done and recognize I'm a 3-time world champion. Not a national champion, 3-time world champion. And I'll tell the quick story because I was telling it to you before we hopped on here. So I was approached by a gentleman in my gym and works for a very well-known brand within the sports realm. And he approached me, introduced himself. Russ was saying that, and I think it's so true that like the powerlifting community is literally its own worst enemy. Like we almost don't want it to grow. We we do things to just stab ourselves, and that goes all to the way to the highest of high for powerlifting as well. That's not just the community itself, that's also the leadership. And like if I showed you guys this organization and the opportunity that I was given just because of where I have reached within this sport, it would open some eyes in terms of like possibilities. Bad feeling in my stomach, like it was just gut wrenching. But again, like I can't like continue to just think about myself because it's bigger than me, right? And I've had so many opportunities in my life where I was on the other end of that stick, where I was on Callie's level. But again, it's bigger than me. Callie could now, that could have been the meat where it just gained his confidence and now takes off into the stratosphere. Whereas if he lost, who knows what would have happened, right? It's inevitable, man, especially when more money is going to start coming into this sport, because I think that's inevitable as well. I think the sport's going to absolutely take off. I mean, shit, we got on Eurosport. We were on the Olympic channel. Like, if people don't think that this sport is going to be big, they're blind, they're ostrich, they have their head in the ground, and they're, again, trying to keep it fucking to themselves. Powerlifting's mine, powerlifting's mine. And it's like, dude, just let it go. It's going. If you don't get on, the train's left the station. See ya. Like, it's here. Like, it's right now. And it just frustrates me to no end when people keep us in that bucket. But yeah, like I think that it's inevitable. The sport's going to grow. The more money that comes in, people will start having to contemplate what sports they start playing when they're in high school. Again, we have to, as a community, get beyond that. We have to start thinking bigger. How can we grow this thing to a UFC size, to an NFL football size, to an NBA size? Because that's where my mindset is at. That's what I want. I want to be a multi-billion-dollar business one day, where everyone eats, where my son can potentially do this as a career, make money on this. Why not? How fun would it be to be able to lift weights all day? I fucking love it. Stop limiting your mindset. Think as big as you want. You can achieve anything.
Okay, and real quick, I'm just gonna put it back on this part here at the beginning, because I guess the audio has to come through my mic.
Recognize what I have done, and recognize I'm a 3-time world champion, not a national champion, 3-time world champion. And I'll tell the quick story because I was telling it to you before we hopped on here. So I was approached by a gentleman in my gym and works for a very well-known brand within the sports realm. And he approached me, introduced himself, and kind of just said, hey, I recognize who you are. I recognize what you've done within powerlifting. He's a powerlifter himself, which was very interesting. I think he's in his like late 40s. Great deadlifter.
I should add a piece here because you're being extremely humble. Yes, it was a big brand. Can I mention how big this brand is? I'm not going to say the brand. I'm not going to let you.
Yeah.
My friend, because you were being so freaking humble now. So Taylor told me before we went on there, my friend, not multi-million-dollar company and brand, billion with a B. With a B.
The powerlifting.
All right, there you have it. So that was the key headline: billion-dollar brand with the B. Taylor, he goes on to talk about how basically this guy, you know, he recognized him from being a world champion. And then he basically, you know, they're working out some kind of deal where Taylor's going to do some motivational speaking for this guy's branch, this guy's division of the company. And we don't want to go too far down that road because we don't want to speculate. He DM'd and said the deal's not done, but it's just the fact that people at these really big companies, and we can say, like we can speculate, we don't know, but like, let's, you know, the company that I've been mentioning since day one, since I started working with Powerlifting America, is Nike. And if we can just get on the radar of a person, I keep saying this, all it takes is one person who's an important person at a company like Nike or whatever brand you want to mention, Adidas, whatever the company is, Toyota, Amazon, Mercedes, whatever, right? If they just come across someone that resonates with them, whether it's Taylor, whether it's Claire, whether it's LS, whether it's Jesus, whether it's, you know, Leah, any of these superstars that we talk about, it just takes one person to bring in powerlifting into the mainstream. And we're talking like billion-dollar companies here now starting to mess with powerlifting, and how exciting that is. And then just the mindset that he mentions in all those clips afterwards, that where I cut those from like across the whole 3-hour long episode. He's throwing out these clips like this about like, we have to think bigger, that we can't keep holding the sport into this small little box where it's like our little play box and we want to keep it there, our little sandbox, and we want to keep it there, that we got to think about these bigger picture things. And so that's what we're really trying to do. Like that's my vision, you know, as well. Like I share that same vision with Taylor. And like I said, I mean, since day one, I've been saying the words Nike. We're putting it out there, you know, every single chance we can. And it's just a matter of catching someone's eye and then doing the work and doing the work to then make a deal. Let's make a deal happen. LS, what's your take on all those things that you heard there from Taylor? If you could hear it, sorry. You're muted. There you go.
Okay. All right. I didn't hear I haven't watched the interview, so I really can't speak too much of it just from what I hear. Here's the thing. I don't think that we're limiting powerlifting in any form or fashion. And there's with every sport, there's the people that want to, you know, kind of, not the OGs, but there's like the gatekeepers that, you know what, this is our thing. We've really been working hard on, you know, growing as much as we can within our little, you know, our little scope, our little subculture, and that's it. And there's people that are like that, and it's just, you know, but it's like that in every pocket of sport. Every sport has it. Doesn't matter, football, baseball, basketball. Every sport has, you know, those people that want to gatekeep and just, you know, wanted to keep it to themselves, purists, whatever you want to call it. If we looked, I mean, and obviously there's data to back it. If you look over the last, we'll say 20 years of powerlifting's grown regardless of people want to gatekeep it or not. I mean, because back in the day it was just equipped. And yeah, those people like, you know, we're going to gatekeep it. We can't let it get any bigger than this. This is our thing. And it keeps growing. You add raw. It keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And then, you know, honestly, that infusion of, I should say, the influx of a lot of, you know, former CrossFitters that started to come in and really started killing it and growing, you know, just growing the sport by the exposure that it, you know, that it gets. And at the same time, the more interest that, you know, females started taking into the sport, that really helps skyrocket it. And it keeps going and going. Here's the thing. I don't think we're limiting powerlifting in any form or fashion. If you're going to gatekeep, why the heck would you try to get this thing recognized as an Olympic sport, the biggest sporting event that exists on earth? If you're trying to gatekeep it, if you're trying to keep it from growing, I don't know that we're necessarily trying to keep the thing from growing. Or we're not thinking big. I think we're thinking as big as you can think. If you're thinking of trying to get into the Olympics, what the hell is bigger than the Olympics? Let's be 100. Like, what sporting event do you know that's bigger than the Olympics?
Yeah,
aside from the World Cup, and I don't see any of us able to tackle or ever, you know. So that you know what I mean. So
yeah,
in all honesty, I think, you know, powerlifting has been thinking big for the longest time. I think the only thing that's really changed the game is this, the introduction of money into the game. You know what I mean? And let's be completely 100, with the exception of maybe a couple of events. I think maybe 5 or 6 over the last 5 years, there really has just been people just throwing a hella bank into powerlifting. You know what I'm saying? Let's just, you know, I mean, and obviously the Sheffield helped. You know what I mean? But then again, that's just a small percentage of people that are making that bank, you know? So, I mean, I don't think that, that powerlifting and the powers that be are thinking small. Shit, I know that they're thinking globally. I know that for a fact, because there's no way that you can't get a sport in the Olympics and not be a global sport. You know what I mean? So
Totally.
that's one thing. And again, like I said, with the whole addition of more money, more meets willing to pay, more local meets willing to pay. I mean, in ever growing federations across the board, I feel like it's growing, but it's just, you've got a lot of different people going in a lot of different directions within the sport. Because a lot of people feel like maybe their flavor of soup is better than the other person's, flavor. Like maybe what we do is a little bit better than another person. Whereas, you get a lot of these sports, say your NFL, your NBA, and a lot of these, team sports. I mean, there's an end goal for every one of those sports. It's to be a pro. Your end goal is to be a pro. And if you're a pro, your end goal as a pro is to be in Hall of Famer. So there's like these clear directions and steps, that's been established for years and years and years and years, prior to people starting the sport. And that's just what powerlifting, I think, is kind of lacked in terms of like a kind of a structure in terms of like, all right, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? So for the longest, you could be a local champion, and a local champion become a national champion, and a national champion can become a world champion. And you're a world champion. And guess what? You might be lucky if you have a sponsor, you might get a little money broken off to you. But aside from that, you just go home with a medal and a bill that you acquired, from trying to pay your way to get to worlds. With the introduction of more money, there could possibly be, a pathway of like, what, dude, I won this local competition. I made some bank off of it. I won nationals. I made bank off of it. I made it to worlds. I got stupid bank off of it, and then that starts being kind of a structure of like, what, this is how you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not knocking on what Taylor said, but I don't fully agree. I feel like powerlifting's really been thinking, they've been thinking big, but then, you do tend to run into, kind of how we talked about with Claire, you do run into those trolls, you do run into those haters, you do run into those gatekeepers that tend to try to want to keep it to themselves, that may not think it's going to grow, that may not want it to grow because, where they're at, positions they're at, they're benefiting from it. But we've talked about it before, Paul, there's enough room at the top for everybody to eat. It's just a matter of people are willing to share the food off their plate. There's only so much you can eat before your stomach gets full. So with lifting, with powerlifting in particular, that goal has always been, for the last, good Lord, as long as I can remember, since Raw really came into the game and really started being taken serious, the goal has always been to get that Olympic recognition. Whether we get it or not, that still remains to be seen. But even to get the provisional recognition that we got, and again, you think about the additional World Game spots that have been awarded. It is on the rise. It may not be on a meteoric rise like some people may want, but yet and still there still is some positive movement forward. And again, I the only way, and I can you can quote me on this, the only way that we are really going to get that push to that next level is there has to be across the board equality between men and women. There has to be. You're not going to get the support that you're wanting and that you're needing if it's just 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Like it's got to be an even Steven across the board, and because we need all hands on deck to really push this sport forward. And I mean, you can only do it so much, by yourself. Like we need everybody, to participate, everybody to really get that push in. I mean, and I'm a firm believer in, the only way we're going to get it to that next level, it can't just be like, all right, we're going to slide in, but we're just going to highlight our men. And we're just going to put the people that, that bench, X amount, squat X amount, and look like this in singlet. Like it's not going to work that way. It's got to be all hands on deck.
And that's one thing that's cool that we see with like world championships, same number of medals given to men and women. Sheffield 12-12, same bag to both sides, right? Like they weren't like, oh, we'll give 30,000 to the men and then only 20,000 to the women. So I think we are seeing like the people with the big visions and stuff, but just generally this idea of a Nike type billion-dollar company coming into powerlifting space, as well as just like all the other things that we all know that are going on behind the scenes, where we see the sport is headed in a really bright direction. like a really, really bright direction. And Mike, I know you're chomping at the bit here. I see you getting antsy over there. You're ready to say something. Let's go, Mike. What do you got?
I was just gonna say LS. So
Yeah.
I think when Taylor was saying that, like, talking about people not having the vision or being their own worst enemy, I don't think he means like the people at the top. Like, obviously we see women trying to get into Olympic stuff like that. I think he's referring to, like, we have too many people in the powerlifting community who like make all like the self-deprecating jokes about how powerlifting's not a real sport and how it's like, and you shouldn't take it too seriously. I think he's referring to that. Like, for us to like take the next step, we can't have our own community like trying to belittle our sport. Like,
No, okay, I feel that. Again, I didn't watch the interview. I don't watch too many of them. I preface it by saying I didn't watch the interview. But just based off of the clip, and again, it could be a Nike, it could be a Procter and Gamble, it could be an IBM, it could be an Intel, it could be Pfizer, it could be Home Depot. There's a hell of billion-dollar companies out there.
Exactly.
And again, it's not a knock. It's not a knock. One thing I that I will say about Paul is Paul dreams big. Paul, he shoots for the stars. And Nike is a creme de la creme in terms of, that company that we would love. I mean, we fit it for sure. We fit. How you gonna make lifters and not use lifters? You know what I mean? You have,
and we got Amanda out here,
Yeah, Amanda's out here killing the game. And again, you literally set it up for me. I still don't understand how, you have lifters like Amanda. She gets a little bit of shine, you know what I mean? I don't feel like she gets enough. I'll say that a million times. You have people like, Meg, who I feel like should get a lot more shine. Claire, who should get a lot more shine. I feel like we do a good job about highlighting our female lifters. We do a good job, but I feel like we could do a better job. And this is not just a Powerlifting America thing. This is just lifting in general. We have so many killers out there that don't get the light that some of our guys get, and you might have a guy he's a fairly decent lifter. And I mean, he really isn't touching, what this female is doing, but he's going to get a little bit more shine than she does. And again, that's one of those things kind of, that I feel like we could do a better job of making a conscious effort about, really seeing some of these, because I'm telling you right now, there's far more females hopping into the sport than are males right now.
Yeah, that's where the growth potential.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice by not highlighting these amazing women that are out there killing it on the platform. Not just our open, not just our juniors, our masters. Talk about just stories of longevity. I mean, our M2s, M3s, M4s that are that in all shapes, shapes and forms are, they're battling, and they're really fighting, all the, the negativity that comes along with, aging as a woman, as a female. They're fighting it, and they're really, they're killing, they're healthy, living great, healthy lifestyles. Like, that's the stuff that I mean, me personally, that I like to see. That's the stuff I like to hear about. I mean, Don't get me wrong. I love seeing Ray squat 1,000. I love seeing Jesus squat 1,000. I love seeing, people bench 600 pounds. I love seeing Taylor win, and win. I love seeing that stuff. But I also, like seeing, a Cat 1, Cat 2 judge like Lynn Holman, like, what? She's going to judge half of, NAPF, and then she's going to go compete. I think that's amazing. I want to see these sub juniors, these high schools that are, their careers are just getting started, and they, they're part of our Fed, and they're growing and they're growing and growing. Like, what, we made a highlight on this kid, their first nationals. This kid only had 2,000 followers. Here it is, 2030. This kid's sitting at, 400K, and sponsored by whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's, there's so many opportunities, obviously, to grow this sport, that I think can really be highlighted, that can really be, what's the word I'm looking for, can really be pushed, just by, us making that conscious effort to look a little bit deeper, look a little bit further, man, because we, it is as dope as it is, man. Like, there's only going to be, one Mikey Davis, you know what I mean? And he definitely deserves his shine, but there's a million, Joe Schmoes that are inspired by Mikey Davis, I mean, and
100%.
If one Joe Schmo gets that love, I mean, I feel like I'm a Joe Schmo sometimes. Like, people don't feel like superstars all the time. Like, what, dude, I like seeing stuff like, what, this dude is, he may not be squatting 700-800 pounds. He might only be squatting, 350, 360, and he is freaking loving life. That's his PR. You know, I want to see that. I want to see him get that high. Like, you know what? Shout out to so-and-so and so-and-so out of wherever, West Virginia, who just got his, whatever his PR was, you know what? Those, again, and those people, those are the people that make up our federation.
Totally.
Those are the people that, that are tuning in to the live streams. Those are the people that are dreaming big when they see, Claire, on the live stream killing. Like, those are the people that are getting inspired. Like, I feel like we should use those people that are inspired to inspire other people. And again, that's just me talking. If we're going to grow the sport,
like you said, I mean, like Mikey Davis will inspire 1,000. Like when Taylor
absolutely,
if Taylor Atwood gets a Nike shoe, how many kids are going to grow up now all of a sudden being excited about powerlifting?
Big facts,
like exponential.
Big facts. I mean, and like I said, I mean, it could be a number of, I don't know, it could be UPS. They're $1 billion company. Like, you know
exactly.
what?
Yeah.
Powerlifting America, we want to look, it's just, I just feel like, it's as far as powerlifting goes, I feel like it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing. I think we just, I feel like we as the people in the game, we just have to do a better job about protecting one another. And really, as we're saying, like, weeding out those people that don't want it to grow. I mean, because people are going to try to bottleneck it as much as they can. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, the masses that love the sport are going to win over those the minorities that wanted to stay, but under their thumbnail. You can't, man. This thing is growing. And the love for the sport is just growing and growing and growing. And I mean, you have people like yourself, you're willing to to be the lighthouse in the middle of the dark, trying to shine the light so people can see more about it. You're willing to be that person that stands on the mountaintop, shouting like, hey man, this sport is lovely. We want you guys to come and be a part of it. And I think that's the appeal of the sport is it definitely has a come one, come all type feel. And once people are in it, they feel the love that's provided by the people that, that are a part of the federation, that are part of the meet, that are part of the teams. And like, you don't want to leave that. You want to replicate that. You want to, you want to reciprocate that. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, I didn't hear the whole, I didn't watch the interview, but I mean, just from that piece, I feel like, we do dream a lot bigger than maybe we're getting credit for. And I speak mainly for the powers that be that are trying to grow the sport. I do feel like that day's going to come where we do get that big deal. We do get that big check. If it's a Nike check, that's cool. If it's a big check from someone else, that's even cooler. But I just feel like, it's only a matter of time. And we just have to do a better job about letting other people in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think that might be the best way of putting it. I mean, I feel like we could do a better job about letting people in, because we do a really good job about, if you're powerlifting related, if you're lifting related, come on in. But there's, there's people that that identify with just being in shape. There's people that just identify with working out. They may not be, their company might not be like a powerlifting brand. But no, let's say, let's be 100, like staying in shape and adding years to your life, that speaks to everyone.
Exactly. That's why the potential for the sport is so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead if you have.
I'm interested. Julie, I'm interested to hear, what you think about it.
Yeah. You're muted.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree there. I think too, like one thing, and we were going to talk about this maybe down the line a little more, in addition to, these big companies coming in and sponsoring people. One thing that I've seen, especially there's a sub-junior lifter, Rachel O, and she is going to Romania in a month, and she's gone on like local news sources and all of this stuff. And I think that is another important way to reach the masses, not necessarily with these big companies and lifting related stuff, but that is purely just reaching everyone in the community, regardless of if they lift or not. And that way is encouraging to people like who you said just identify with being healthy, that this is an option for them to do, like this exists. Powerlifting gyms exist. This is a new way to approach fitness. And I think that that's a really good way to get people in as well. But yeah, I mean, I think that what you're saying is correct. I mean, there are always going to be people in the sport who are gatekeeping. There's always going to be trolls. There's always going to be that stuff, with anything. There's the people who hold it back, and there's a reason for that. Like they have their reasons. And then there's, people who are pushing it forward, and they have their reasons as well. And what we kind of have to do is mitigate the concerns of those people who, they're like, well, what are these big changes going to do to the sport? Are we going to see more rules where like sumo is banned, or like, we have to bench with a flat back just to satisfy, gym bros? We have to mitigate those concerns, but also keep pushing ahead. And it's
Absolutely.
a delicate thing. But I think that we're on the right track. And I think, like I said, getting these big companies in, getting endorsements, getting sponsored. Gymshark sponsored British junior nationals this year, like things like that. But also on the other side, getting noticed in the community from these local news agencies, kind of bottom up and top down approach to expanding the sport. I think that is key. So
absolutely. I feel like that exposure, I mean, to borrow a phrase from Fred Taylor, like exposure leads to elevation. The more exposure that we get as a sport, both individually, collectively, I feel like, a lot of people still don't even know what powerlifting is, so that's always a hard thing. Like some people they still don't even know what the sport is, in and of itself. I mean, so if you tell them like, hey, I'm on the world team. Oh, that's awesome. So you going to the Olympics? Oh, maybe one day, love, but not this time. Like it's, that exposure, people realizing, recognizing what the sport is, like you said, going to local news agencies and just getting more exposure for the sport. I feel like the more eyes we get on the sport, the more opportunities we have for people want to recognize what it is. And, kind of leaning back to what Paul says, for that one person to see like, whoa, this is something that, this is something that, I might be interested in. This is something that my company might be interested in. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be it doesn't have to be a big name Nike. It could be United Health Group. I mean, that's $1 billion company. I mean, it could be anyone that sees a sport, and identifies with, hard work. There's not a person alive that doesn't identify with hard work. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that you cannot do this sport and not work hard. It just does not exist. Doesn't matter if you're lifting, 1,000 keys. Doesn't matter if you're lifting 1,000 grams. If you're in this sport, you have to work hard, and, you're working to better yourself. So, I mean, I definitely agree. I completely 100% agree, Julia. I feel like it's going to be one of those things where the more exposure we get, the more exposure that, we're willing to, to provide for ourselves and for the sport. I feel like that's really going to help us usher, to a new era.
Yeah. I want to mention the comment that Chelsea E made in the chat, where she said, I don't think he's referring to purposely gatekeeping, but more like small arguments that are made that people don't realize hold the sport back. And that really resonates with what Mike was saying as well. Like people that self-deprecate the sport, don't take the sport seriously, or say like, oh, it's not that deep, man. It's just lifting weights. It's not a big deal. Why do you train so hard? Why do you do this? And that's really the kind of stuff. But otherwise, what Taylor was basically saying is exactly the same thing with ULS. Like it's inevitable. Like people are the people at the top that are working really hard. They're pushing it, and the more money is going to come in, the sport's going to get better. You're going to get, like we talked before about NFL athletes, if they start coming into the sport because now there's money and you can actually make a career out of it. He, in fact, even mentioned like he would like one day that his son will be able to, make a living from the sport.
That would be dope.
Like lift for a living. And I don't know if the Chelsea E that's in the chat is Chelsea Enamore. I hope it is, but she's a sub-junior star. She's a two-time. She connected the belts with the high school nationals and sub-junior nationals, 84 plus. She's going to the world championship. She's going to fight it out with Luella Bowden, our other superstar sub-junior that won Open Nationals. So one's got the high school and the sub-junior rings. The other one's got the open ring, and they're gonna fight it out on the world stage.
Somebody's playing Thanos over here. She's trying to get all the rings. That's what's up.
Yeah, so sick. So I don't know if that's Chelsea, but you could just imagine. I think Chelsea also might squat in Jordan. So she's like one of these, like you mentioned, a high school kid coming up. Like one day, maybe they got the Chelsea Enamore Nike 11s or whatever, you know, like I feel
like it's a matter of time. I agree. Like it's only a matter of time, man. This sport's going to continue to grow and grow. I feel like we have to do a better job again. Like, I mean, I'm still in line from Julia. Like, we have to do a better job about, just that kind of stuff just has to be handled. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I just feel like, I don't even feel like a lot of the trolling and a lot of that stuff is really a direct shot at powerlifting, in itself. I just feel like a lot of these people are just hella insecure because they're seeing people do stuff that they can't do. And if they can't do it, they're just not willing to work hard enough to get to that point where they could do it. And a lot of that speech I really feel like is just out of insecurity. And so you get enough insecure people, enough insecure ducks in the pond, man, that quack's going to be super, super loud. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I mean, like he also mentioned, like, surround yourself with people that hype you up and say yes to your ideas.
Absolutely.
Like I will just point blank tell you that when I brought up the idea of doing press conferences after powerlifting, like very important people in the industry said they never work, they won't work, don't do it. And people, out there even tried to stop us from doing the press conferences. And so that's the kind of thing he's saying about is like that's so, like Russ said it on one of his videos, like it's so on one of his podcasts was like, that's just like low hanging fruit. Like that's nothing. Like that's not even, I don't even consider that thinking big, but for some people that was too big of an idea, like, and so that's what Russ is talking about. That's what Taylor's talking about, is that, like, basically, there will always be people that you have an idea, like probably the first time they pitched the idea of Sheffield. So how many people will be like, oh, you can never do that. You can never pull that off. You can never pull that. Yeah. Oh, you can never get Eurovision to come and broadcast like live at the World Championships, or, oh, you can never get into the Olympics or whatever. And there's always people that are going to be doubters, and you just got to tune them out. I feel like
it's a matter of time, because the the crazy thing about just human nature is we're always looking for something new. We're always looking for something fresh. We're always looking for something that excites us. And but it's weird, as old as just lifting anything is, the idea of just lifting things up. As old as that idea is, I mean, people have been doing it since the beginning of the time. It's just people are getting smaller and the weights are getting bigger. It's just how it is, so it's something exciting about that. I mean, there's no one that exists right now that doesn't like a version of a superhero. It's just, it doesn't matter if it's anime, doesn't matter if Superman, doesn't matter if it's Marvel. It's just the idea of superhuman strength, the idea of people doing something that not a lot of people can do. It's appealing. And then you add to the fact that, these are, awesome people. They're super smart people. They're beautiful people. That combination, I mean, it's something to watch. It not only is entertaining, but it's like, it's scary in a sense. It's a thrill, I mean, because the whole idea of this, the human error is always in it. So you just never know. I mean, so whether you're watching to see if this weight's going to crush the person, or if the person's going to crush the weight, it's something appealing. So that momentum it keeps growing. I mean, of course, the median age just keeps getting younger and younger and younger, and you just start seeing new, fresh faces lifting bigger, better weight. I mean, what's not to like about that? So you are going to get, broadcasts on the Olympic channel. You are going to have Eurosport, willing to back it. You are going to have, bigger corporations starting to reach out, to our superstar athletes, and you're going to start seeing more superstar athletes, starting to to come to the forefront, which is absolutely awesome. I mean, it's weird. I'm a masters lifter, dog, and I get people showing me love. That's never happened. When I first started a masters, it's like, oh yeah, you're dead, dog. You're dead.
Oh, dude, now we got like you, Lane, on the equip side. We got Steve Mann, but also we got Shelly. We got like multi-time world champions on the women's side as well. Like, Gail Williams. Like we're trying to feature all of them. Like we were talking before. Like in APF, we're gonna have Lily Jackson. We're gonna have Mel Copeland. Like we talked about them. Yeah, I mean, there's
just, and it's awesome, you know, and I feel like the sport's starting to do a better job. And again, I really have to give you love for this, Paul, because I feel like when it's all said and done, you're going to be one of those people that people talk about as far as like, you know, we got a lot of exposure because of this guy and because of his team and what they were willing to do. You do a very, very good job. And I mean, I say it to your face, I say it behind your back. You know, I'll say it publicly and privately that you guys, your team, the Powerlifting America media team, you guys do one of the best jobs, if not the best job of, you know, featuring whomever. Doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what their age is. Doesn't matter what weight class they're in. You guys do a very good job about showing love, you know, to lifters, you know. And so a lot of times, you know, it could be a master's lifter that these, you know, these young cats have no idea who they are. It could be a sub junior that they don't know who they are. And this is opportunity for them to receive that exposure. You guys do a very, very good job of that. I feel like, you know, and again, I'm going to say it, you know, quote me on it. I feel like, you know, for the sport to grow, especially on the IPF side, I feel like a lot of the ideas that you guys have, a lot of ideas that you bring to the table, they're going to have to be used in order for that to happen. And it's crazy because I know, I know a lot of people say no to some of your ideas because they're just so huge, you know, but you're a very forward thinker and you're kind of ahead of your time in some of your thought processes, you know, and I only wish that people could be in on our calls sometimes when you're just brainstorming. And I'm just like bouncing ideas off of you. Oh yeah, and they could do this and we do this. I feel like for the sport to grow, it's gonna have to be forward thinkers like yourselves, you know, people on your team that really, really, you know, you're thinking about the growth of the sport first, and about yourself second. And it really has to be there's gonna have to be a huge shift to selflessness for this sport to grow.
Man.
And if and when that happens, I'm telling you right now, man, any any anchor that we had that was holding us down, it's going to be a wrap. Like we're really going to just usher in, like we're going to need all hands on deck. And again, like I said, that can't happen with just, all right, man, let's just feature our heavy hitter dudes. Like we need our females to get the exact same exposure, if not a little bit more. And you know what I mean? Like, and we're, you know, it's going to take, you know, everybody being on deck. It's going to take, like, you know what, we also have some Special Olympians that actually, they can do both. Like, I mean, it's just, there's so many people out there that are so talented that have an ability to defy gravity, you know, with their strength, but also have the ability to inspire just, you know, any old person that's willing to watch. So again, that's a shout out to you guys, man. Cause like y'all definitely kill it, dude. Seriously.
Dude, I mean, I really appreciate that. I am certainly not complacent. Like I'm
no, not at all.
I'm not happy with my own performance. I think we can spotlight, you know, more masters, more women, more sub junior, like more, we can always do more, like, and we can always get better. So I'm not satisfied, but we are making progress, and that's the key thing. And I always think, because I mean, you're right, it's like it's tough out here. There are a lot of haters. I mean, I do get, you know, social media stuff is very negative. It can be very negative, but you just got to tune all that out. And you know, you're one of the people that I think about whenever people tell me, whenever I start to get down, or I start to think about, you know, like, can I really do this? Can I make a difference? And I remember in Panama, you said, if not me, then who? And I think that rings out in my head all the time. Like, who else is going to stand up and, you know, volunteer to do this stuff? And if it's not me, so I got to just keep pushing.
This is what I was thinking about. Remember how much hate you got at the beginning?
When
you first started? Like, no, let's be 100. Remember how much hate you guys got at the beginning when, like, the way that you guys were running stuff, like why is Powerlifting America doing it like this? Like, I think at that point we had maybe 200 or 300 followers, maybe.
Yeah.
And you were just getting hate on hate. And then, like, I remember I have the screenshot. I remember watching, I'm like, yo, wasn't this like 200 like just a month ago? And there's like around 2,000.
Yeah.
And then like right when we hit around the 5,000 mark, that's when, like, oh man, we love like Powerlifting America. Look how they highlight their athletes. And then people started like kind of biting the, you know, they started like trying to bite what you were doing and everything. And I honestly, I don't think, as far as in my powerlifting career, I've never seen anyone get that much hate, that much pushback, and turn around and get love in such a fast manner in my whole life. Like, you went from like, this guy's insane to like, oh, this dude's sick. So, you know, I feel like it's one of those things where it has to be forward thinkers like yourself. It has to be forward-thinking, talented people. I leave out that part, and because you have a talented team, man. I mean, and what you guys are able to do, what you guys are able to see, I almost predict, because there's stuff I know that you do, like, oh yeah, this is gonna hit. Oh yeah, this one's gonna hit. And I know there's some like, we can't do that because that's not gonna hit. You know what I mean? Like I know kind of the way you think, but not completely, because I mean no one knows how fall thinks for real. But you have a team of absolute killers, man. And it's always funny because I know that people will come and try to volunteer because like, oh yeah, dude, that looks like it's so much fun. Then they realize like, wait a minute though. This is I'm in a pool of sharks. Like these people they don't stop moving, like they're, it's not that they're outclassed. It's just like, sometimes they just get outworked, and it's a lot more work than people like really realize.
It definitely is.
And again, that's the part that, I've been around you for a while now, and I get to pick your brain a little bit, and, the one thing that, I think you're doing a better job is you're kind of stopping to smell the roses a little bit here and there now. But I know at the beginning, dude, you were just 100%, because you were pretty much you by yourself. And then you started getting some super reliable people around you. And now like you guys are in hyperdrive, and it's so awesome to watch, man. It really, really is. And I don't think you guys get enough love. So I'm gonna publicly show you guys love, because you guys do such an amazing job. Just like with this Monday Night Live, like who thinks of this type of stuff? You know what I mean? Like, let's be 100.
Basic. This is a basic idea in sports podcasting, bro. This is nothing, right? Like, we're not
again, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Alluding back to what we talked about as far as the people that gatekeep. Some people don't even view this as a sport.
Yeah.
Exactly. In our own sport, they don't even view it as sport. It's not that serious. So why would you have a Monday Night Live podcast, a sports podcast show within powerlifting? Who does that? It's not that important, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True. Who would listen? Who
would listen? Who
Mike
would
Gold, had a great comment a couple episodes back where it's like we were doing these pregame shows and these postgame shows, postgame press conferences and pregame shows in Malta and stuff to like highlight, what's going to happen today, recap what happened yesterday. And it's like we had like 2 people watching, and like those videos didn't get a ton of views and stuff. But it's like we just gonna keep plugging away until eventually people come around.
Yeah. Well, that's how I deal with my podcast. That's how I have my live ones, here and there, and it might be one person, and it's like, okay, is somebody gonna say anything? They might watch for a little bit. And honestly, they might type in the comment box, ha ha ha. You're like, all right. They're engaged. It's just, it's one of those things where, it may not be for 100,000 people. It might be for one person, but that one person has having the time of their life. And you know what? It might be an intimate conversation. It might be a town hall, or it might be talking to a stadium. Either way, like the message is getting, sent, to somebody out there, and they're having a good time, man. And again, that's on you guys. Cause you really just, y'all put y'all's heart and soul into it,
We definitely do,
and
man.
that's the only way we're gonna grow this thing. Like we have to have more people like you guys that are willing to do it, because it's so much easier said than done. But we need talented people like yourselves that are willing to do it, and once you're able to do it, maybe show the rest of us the way, like, hey, this is how we did it. You might be able to do the same thing on your own scale, and then kind of again, leaning back into what Julie said, like, trying to get more exposure that way. Like, hey, you know what? Powerlifting America, they have their own, Monday Night Live, well, I got one that's going on, on Tuesday. I got a Tuesday Night Live, whatever it is, just to get the sport out there. And, a lot of the benefits we may not actually see in our lifetime, or we may not see within our lifting career. But again, one thing Taylor did say that I completely 100% agree, and I don't have to watch the podcast to agree with, is it's bigger than us.
Exactly.
It is so much bigger than us, dude. Like I don't,
he said it many times on there, actually, on that episode. It's I just got goosebumps when you said that, because he mentioned that many times. And I do think that if there's one thing that I got that our squad gets right, is that's exactly the point. And as long as we keep that, the sky's the limit. And if anyone is listening to this and you have talent and you want to join our team, hit us up in DMs. Let us know, you want to come and join, you want to grow this thing. We need like about 10 more people on our media team. And so and we can really do something. We'll really get someone's attention if we can get some more people on our squad. So, but yeah, man, I really appreciate this. Is what happens if me and LS start talking.
I'm sorry, y'all.
It devolves into the love fest.
Julie, I'm sorry.
You got a 3-hour love letter.
Yeah. Oh,
episode.
yeah. I forgot about the love letter.
Go back and listen to that one. Mike Gold reposted it on his story saying like, this is the kind of shit I love. And that's how I knew Mike Gold was going to be a real one for us. That was
Just
before
wait. Yes,
we
y'all
went to
wait.
Malta.
Y'all wait till I get Paul on my podcast. That's probably next month. We're gonna get Paul on my podcast. It's probably gonna be like a 6 hour. I'm just like, dude, just talk, bro. Just talk. I'm gonna cry on the other end. Just tell me what you feel. But yeah,
exactly.
It's just honestly, it's just refreshing, man. I think that's the coolest thing about this sport is, there's always going to be somebody that's strong, and there's always going to be somebody that puts up a crazy number, but it's very, 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 very rare that you're going to find somebody that's willing to like go above and beyond themselves to make sure that we grow the sport and focus on treating people really, really well. And it takes work, man, to be a world champion. It takes work to be that 1%. It doesn't take a lot of work to be a good person, bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a ton of work to want to make people feel better, to want to help grow the sport. I feel like we tend to kind of lean on our big name athletes to kind of carry the torch, but they can only do so much, man. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be the rest of us. You know what I mean? It's going to be the rest of us. And, it really, is sad as is to say. I mean, like, if we don't have you guys, if we don't have, the media team, no one's going to know what's going on anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, we can have these baller athletes that are moving this crazy way, but if no one sees it, okay. And
that's what we had in the past.
Yeah. Like, so, and I feel like that's one of the biggest things that you guys do that you don't get enough credit for. You capture the moment at the perfect point, and you make it into something inspiring. And that's not something that you can teach. I really applaud you guys for that, man, because I literally you've posted some stuff. I'm like, wait, what? How's what I mean? Like, and I'm not a wait what type person, so it's awesome to watch that, and the fact that you're able to do something like, we're going to do a Monday night, and let's do a podcast, and let's bring on Claire, let's bring on, one of the dopest in the game that, think at an astronomical level, and, it's really, pushing the sport to heights it's never gone. Like, that's the type of thinking, that's the type of stuff that we need to really grow this sport. And honestly, dude, had it not been for you guys, I don't think this would ever been done, bro. I'm gonna be 100 with you. So again, I have to salute you guys for that, because I mean, this is fire, man. Like, I feel like Stephen A. Smith right now, dude. So, yeah,
wait till we get some real Stephen A. This is Love Fest time. We're at the end of we're at the end of the 3 hours, but we do have we got a big list of like some spicy topics that we'll get on. We'll get you on here and we'll go over some of those, some fun ones for sure.
Talk trash.
Mike Gold, you got anything you want to say to wrap this up? LS, I really appreciate all the kind words, but yeah, we do need to wrap this. We've been going for 3 hours straight. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm basically good. I mean, I think this was a great podcast. Like, we covered just so many different like aspects, like from like current events to just like comparison, just to like the growth. Meaning, I guess we saved it for last, and some people might find it boring, but it comes down to like the most important thing is that everyone here is here for the same purpose, and that's for the growth of the sport. Right? Like Taylor said, he wants this to be a sport that his kids can do for like a living one day. Like, it's not, I mean, definitely some of it's about us, but it's not just about us. It's about us, it's about the future. And I think we just have to keep doing our part in just expanding every aspect, whether it be the media, whether it be the actual competitions, whether it be, like LS was saying, the spotlight on that sub-junior lifter, just all these things. And I think we're doing a good job of it. We have to continue doing it. And hopefully the more people that get involved and do it, just the better off we're going to be. So that's basically the recap.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Well said.
And Julia, you got anything else that you want to add?
No, I mean, LS, like, I could listen to you talk all day, like, straight up.
Me too.
Like, there's nothing that like, you said it better than I could have. And yeah, I mean, I think we're on a great path here. And yeah, people really don't realize like how hard Paul works. And it's been crazy just being like a tiny part of it and seeing that, because I know I've put in a lot of work, what I would consider a lot of work, and it's literally a tiny fraction of like the work Paul puts in. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Crazy.
no one outworks Paul.
You
But I
guys
mean-
are singing my praises. You're making me blush. I don't like all this, but it's good. I take it as a great compliment.
And one more thing, just to point out again, Mike Gold, he paid his own way to go to Malta to be part of these press conferences.
Wow.
So, like people really care about this sport. So that's a big deal too. And
salute to you. Wow. And the thing is, he would have never said anything had Julia not said something. That's what I'm talking about, bro. Like, you cannot tell me that you guys aren't the hardest working group in the game right now. That's just not. That's my dude. Salute. I literally, I'm almost choked up thinking about that. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
Like,
And so
really, who
Mike
does
Gold, to sing his praises, like he went to Junior Worlds last year on his own dime, to Turkey.
Man.
And basically to I think coach like one lifter or handle one lifter, but basically just to be there. And then so whenever he answered the call about being on the media team, and then he said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Malta anyway," it's like, okay, let's go, let's run this thing. And so like it was a great match. And then he worked his ass off like in Malta.
Man,
like, I mean, he
salute
really
to you,
worked,
bro.
He really worked around the clock. I mean, it was like we put
Big
him.
salute to you, brother. God,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome, man.
And then
Yeah.
Julia too. I mean, she came to us before Austin and said she wanted to be on the media team. And then boom, she's basically written damn near every single caption you've seen since then. She's ultimate. And then like just we'll put in as much time as possible, as much time as she can on any given task that we have, which
It's just
anything
crazy.
from the most basic thing to writing full-blown articles to
Everything I've
doing
heard
press
about Julia,
conferences.
I've not heard one
Yeah.
thing about Julia that doesn't say she's a superstar. Like
Oh,
every time her name is mentioned, it's like she does this, she does that, she does this, she does that.
And she can bench 315, right?
Yeah, like.
Are you muted?
I think she's muted.
You have been.
one day. My best is one.
That's crazy, but yeah, dude.
Gym PR though. What's your gym PR?
Julia, you can't let me out bench you. Come on now.
Hey, when I get healthy, all right. Next NAPF 315. You'll see.
Boom.
Listen,
There it is.
It's on wax, so we can always you know what? You're gonna have to come back, cut that, replay that, because then when she goes 315, that's gonna be awesome. It'll be awesome.
Definitely. All right, you guys. Well, that was a fun, heartwarming way to wrap it up. I really appreciate all the kind words. Obviously, we got a spectacular team here, and LS too. Like, I'm not even lying about it. Like anytime I get down, people, so much negativity and all this. Like, I always think of you, and it always helps me raise my head back up.
I
So
appreciate you, brother, man.
It's huge,
I really
man.
do.
And of course, call you, text you, whatever as well when I need
man.
it.
I don't think that it's. Everyone has that number, that name that flashes on your screen when you get a text or a call. You immediately start smiling. Doesn't matter who it is.
Exactly.
As soon as I said, I guarantee you can think of somebody off the top of your head. But
Yep.
Paul's one of those for me. Like his name
Yep.
pops up, like, oh, what's Paul want with me? You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it's gonna be, but I always know it's gonna be something exciting. Like I think everyone has a friend that you have in your life. You're like, you know what? I know that if I get a call or a text from this person, there's gonna be shenanigans that follow.
Yep.
I don't know that Paul and I have never, ever had a conversation that didn't have some type of shenanigans that didn't follow. So again, man, I can say it a million times. I'll say it a million and one. Thank each and every one of you guys for what you do. Because if you guys didn't do it, no one else would. And not just for what you do, but how you do it. There's nothing that you guys do that's not quality. And I think that's what really separates what you guys do from what everyone else does or what they try to do. It's one thing to be hard workers, but it's another thing to be hardworking, talented people that are able to capitalize on your talents. So thank you guys on behalf of the athletes committee. Thank you on behalf of all the athletes. Thank you on behalf of the board powerlifting. Thank you so much. Paul, you don't get enough praise for what you do. I know what you do. Not a lot of people know what you do, but thank you so much, brother. It means a lot to us. Seriously. Thank you.
Well, it means the world to me that you would say that here. So I appreciate that. Just to wrap up here, Chelsea E came back in the chat. I might be filling the Nike 11s, but a lot of things Powerlifting America is doing is really changing the game for everyone. Salute you, Chelsea. We can't do any of this. Like you mentioned earlier, the superstar, the top 1% of these athletes, it's your job to go out there and put up crazy numbers.
Yeah, Chelsea, you got to keep pulling up those numbers, baby.
It's your job to go out there and put up the crazy numbers, and we'll handle the rest. This is what we do. That's what you do. We all have a role to play, and to make the sport what it is and make it something really great. So we couldn't do any of this without our athletes. So we, obviously,
you guys so much.
The first thanks always goes to them. But all right, that's it for tonight. We're gonna wrap this up. This was a hella long 3 hours and 10-minute Monday Night Live with the Powerlifting America podcast crew. We're just going to always be talking all things Powerlifting America, news updates, current events. Julia Williams and Mike Gold, and thanks for joining us. LS, Robert Keller came on here. Claire Zai came on here. And thank you to everyone who listens and everyone who supports powerlifting and Powerlifting America specifically. With that, we're out of here. Peace. Okay, I ended the stream.